Okay, folks, I'll call our Thursday, July 16th, 2026 meeting to order. Begin by standing with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Mr. Eldon to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. We have President Bush.
Here.
I will say here remotely. We have Vice President Rickards. Here. Councilmember Simonson.
Here.
Councilmember Borough. Here. Councilmember Spear.
Here.
Councilmember Gaudini is absent. Councilmember Stratton.
Here.
And Mayor Dana Edwards.
Here, remotely.
Oh, all right. Hi, Dana. Dana's here remotely. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. I'll start with some brief president's comments. I just want to begin by expressing my gratitude that you're all here and safe after that storm, and that we are here and our staff are here safe after Saturday's storm. I'd also be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that these severe weather events are increasingly becoming our new normal as a result of climate change impact. And as a borough, we must ensure that we are properly resourced, both financially and with our personnel, to adapt to and effectively manage these challenges in the years ahead. With that, I'd actually like to yield my time to Councilwoman Borough.
Thank you. So before anything else, I want to acknowledge all of the residents who were impacted by the storm, the power outages, the damage to the homes and cars and property. I wasn't here on Saturday, but walking around town on Sunday morning, I was struck by the extent of the damage, the fallen trees, the downed utility poles and the blocked roads and the flood damage along Haverford Avenue. I was also really inspired to see neighbors checking on one another, clearing branches and lending a hand. And I'd also like to say that same spirit of service was reflected in an extraordinary way by our Public Works Department and by our Norwood Fire Department and also our Norwood Police Department. And I'm going to make Director Eldon feel a little bit awkward by highlighting his incredible efforts that day and throughout the weekend, who, along with his 3-person crew, left their own families on Saturday over the weekend to respond to the storm. And on Saturday, Officer Sapp was on duty during the storm and called Director Eldon, and he rushed to respond to the storm. And Director Eldon, he narrowly missed being struck by a tree on the way here. And then once he was in Narberth, he and his crew, and along with the fire department, they helped rescue stranded motorists that were trapped by the floodwaters on Haverford Avenue. So he coordinated the response along with Officer Sapp, the fire department, PICO, and all the tree crews, and spent the rest of the weekend just leading the effort to make our roads safe and accessible again. So what I'd really like to encourage the whole community to do is to reflect on the fact that while many of us were home with our families, Jeff and his crew, our police officers, our firefighters, and other public servants who are putting themselves at risk and spending long hours away from their own families to protect ours. And so to our public works crew and to our police officers and firefighters and everyone who answered the call that day, thank you. Your dedication, your teamwork, and your commitment to the community are deeply appreciated. And thank you also to Mayor Dana Edwards for acting quickly to keep residents informed and declaring the local disaster emergency, and Assistant Manager Emily Donna for coordinating the response and communications, and Officer Sapp and Officer Lynn for their professionalism while handling what amounted to 227 dispatch calls that day under incredibly challenging circumstances. It was truly a team effort. So Narberth is really fortunate to have such a dedicated public servant, and Jeff, please catch up on some sleep and go take that vacation that you more than earned but refuse to take. And we'll try to do our best to survive without you if you go on vacation. So thank you all, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Do we need to amend the agenda now, or can we wait until after mayor's report?
We can wait until after the mayor's report.
Okay. Dana? Mayor Edwards?
Yeah, thank you. I go by Dana too. That's fine. Either one. I did want to take a second. A lot of what Jean said, I won't repeat, but I want to take a moment to, in the notion of the microburst and kind of what we've been through together. I want to say thank you to the police department, the fire department, EMS personnel, and all of the first responders who worked long hours over the weekend. Special thanks to Emily Pisano for keeping our community informed with the communications. Jeff and his team for what Councilperson Burke already mentioned. PICO worked tirelessly for their restoration efforts. Brian McCown from Montgomery County, who was they're with us all the way in the Montgomery County Emergency Center. Did some great work for us too. The residents, thank you very much. Time and again, you always show why Narberth is just really such a special community. Neighbors checking on neighbors, helping clear debris, sharing information. I appreciate all the calls I got over the weekend. It really helped keep a perspective on what was happening and what's going on, helped determine where we needed escalations. Very special thank you to all of Borough Council. I know some of you helped clear trees. Some of you were in Borough Hall when we opened it up for cooling station and charging station. Thank you. I think all of that is just the spirit of Narberth. It was a group project, and I think we came through it as best as we can. I do want to mention a little bit about the air quality. It's going to be forecasted to be a little bit better tomorrow. But, the conditions tonight and probably early in the morning, they're going to remain unhealthy. So residents like children, older adults, those with heart and lung conditions, please do limit your prolonged outdoor activity. Keep your windows closed when it's practical. Use air filtrations, N95 masks, and the like. We'll be here to help where we can, but it really is a situation where we need to take care of yourselves. And then finally, not to kind of get to the meat of the meeting, I noticed that we still have the proposed bump outs on the meeting, and I think it's really important that. Based on the feedback I've received, the overall sentiment from the residents, it's not very positive. So I want to acknowledge that and, make sure that everybody realizes that remains that way. And I would urge just to take a little bit of time to evaluate designs, placements, before we actually authorize that construction. That's a one-way door. Once you open it and walk through, that's that. I know there's been a lot of consideration, but I would just say that in the wake of everything, taking a little bit of time, making sure that we're doing the right thing is the right thing to do. So I'll end. It's a long-term decision for the borough. So thank you for allowing me some time to speak. Those will be my comments, and thank you.
So just to echo what everyone has already said, I don't need to say too much. Everyone has said it very eloquently already. I just wanted to, thank everybody for their storm response, and certainly very aware of how our neighbors have been impacted by this. So thank you all for your efforts in cleaning up. Thank you to our Public Works Department, Jeff, and all of your guys. Chief and his team, our fire department, and all of our volunteers who have helped out. So it's certainly been a team effort. We're not fully out of it just yet, but I appreciate everyone's assistance with that. It's been an incredible effort to get to this point. So thank you all. I also wanted to give a big shout out to our 4th of July event, thinking of some extreme weather events. I know that was kind of touch and go a little bit that day. We had some extreme heat and some early storms that evening. So just wanted to thank the 4th of July committee for putting on a great event. And also, again, thank you to our Public Works for all of their assistance on the day, and our police departments and neighboring police departments for all their assistance with that. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. I did want to just briefly touch on our vegetation inspection program. So we actually have just about wrapped up at this point all of the inspections for our horizontal sidewalk encroachments. The next step we were going to pivot to was to do the inspections for the 14-foot clearances over the streets. Given that we are, still kind of recovering from the storm, we will be going around and doing those inspections. We will be notifying those neighbors, but we are going to give a prolonged enforcement period for that. So we're going to give folks a couple of months to kind of address that, just in recognition that it's a little bit too soon to try to do the pruning there. So if you get the notice, you're going to get a couple of months. You'll have an opportunity to ask any questions and take some time. So if you suspect that you might have had 14-foot encroachment and you need to do any tree work because of the storm damage, just make sure that that gets taken care of kind of all at once. That might be the best way to do it. And of course, any questions or concerns, you can reach out to the borough and we'll be happy to take a look at your individual circumstances and speak to you about that. Otherwise, you may have noticed that we have some construction going around town. Our road paving program has started. So our contractor is working on doing the ADA curb ramps first along our paving route. And then we will be moving into the actual mill and overlay. So folks who are along the impacted route will receive letters and some temporary parking permits. So just please be mindful that we will have some disruption to our roadways over the next 2.5 weeks or so while we wrap up that road paving program. Otherwise, just a couple other things of note. I did meet with Lower Merion Township, so we are looking forward to we're looking ahead to moving forward with the skate park project. So we're going to have that on upcoming meetings. I just wanted to put a little teaser out for that. And really, it's just been a lot of, storm recovery this week, and it's been a busy summer regardless. So those are kind of the main highlights.
Okay, great. Two quick things. We do need a motion to amend the agenda and add a 9G. As council may know, but the committee may not know, police lost their Ford Explorer in flooding, so we need to amend that and add approval.
Sorry, it's 10C under discussion.
Oh, it's under discussion. I thought we had to consider. Okay, I'm sorry. 10C. I got so much to do.
It's really up to council about what you want to do. Ultimately, I think there should be a ratification once everything is finalized, just so council and folks is aware of what ultimately happened. And there are some open questions right now, so whether or not you want to discuss it, or whether or not you want to actually
move forward with the changes.
It. But again, it's going to come back before you. What's important here is that there's clear directions, and to give the manager confidence, the police confidence to move forward with that under that emergency.
Okay, that's why I was putting it under consideration and not discussion.
Yeah, we can do consideration.
Let's move that, folks, because I do think that's timely to have our police. Let's add that. So then again, I'm going to go back, please. Can I have someone make a motion to amend the agenda 9G?
I move to amend the agenda to add paragraph 9G to authorize potential expenditure for a replacement vehicle, replacement police vehicle.
Second.
All those in favor? Great. All in favor? Thanks. And before we move into public comment, I just want to make a note that we are not voting on or considering transit-oriented density. Rather, I just want to clarify that the discussion we're talking today is the policy-neutral cleanup of our code and recodification, and then we will discuss adding a fitness use. Public comment we will keep to 3 minutes. Councilperson Spear is going to monitor so you have a clear sense of where you are in the time. We're not going to engage in back and forth. Rather, I'll take comments and themes, then we'll address those comments under each action item. If there is a specific question that requires follow-up, I'll be taking notes and follow up with you and staff. So we'll start at the beginning.
Okay, hold on.
Of the room when Mr. Spear is ready.
My screen hazard.
Just a friendly reminder for everyone to please state their full name and their address.
And hit allow. We should be able to share.
Okay. I'm not sure why it's not there. Oh, there we go.
Okay, I'll start in the front row.
I just want to point out, this is our timer on the screen here, and when you're talking, it'll be green. When it's yellow, that means there's a 30-second warning. When it turned orange, that means please wrap up your comments. You would.
Okay, so I can ask you to stand, state your name and full address.
Doug Snyder, 203 Chestnut Avenue. It sounds like not quite clear as to whether there are any significant changes as opposed to recodification, meaning just pointing out different places in the code, correcting places in the code where you're pointing. If you're making changes to the code itself, I would be very concerned about any exception or the possibility of exception to build a higher apartments on the south side on the corner of Narberth and South Narberth and Elmwood Avenue. Is it correct that that is not being considered tonight or discussed?
I am going to answer, I'm just going to clarify, correct.
Okay.
This is a code cleanup policy neutral tonight.
Okay. I was looking over the code and you have a nice map that shows the areas, but the names on the map do not match up with the names in the code. The area on the south side of Narberth is called a urban general, and in the code it's called a town limited. And none of the names match up on the map with what's actually in the code. So that would be nice to correct. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michael Yanoff. I'm an attorney, and I represent a group of neighbors from Narberth, called colloquially our Narberth. We have a concern about the proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance, which of course I understand is not being taken into account. But I've had conversations and will have conversations with your solicitor concerning what our concerns are about, and we hope to be able to work together going forward. Thank you.
I'll start in the second row. Monroe.
My name is Dolly Monroe. I live in 413 Grove Place. I have similar concerns of what these people have just voiced right here. And also, I believe it was about a year ago that we heard there was going to be work starting on the bridge, and we were all clapping and applauding about everything that the Borough Council had done, and that bridge is still very much closed. Is there any time in any one of these meetings that we could find out? I mean, I think 4 more years. Getting to the point, I've lived in Narberth for 25 years. I think 12 of those years that bridge has been closed. It would be really convenient to have it open, I think, for all of us on the south side, not to mention the businesses, because cutting off that major artery to all the businesses cannot be helpful to anyone in Narberth. So I think it would be really nice if the council could really work hard on getting that bridge open instead of building more. Maybe let's work on that.
Thank you. Second row. Second row, moving down.
Oh.
No? Anyone else in the second row?
Is the public comment
This is it.
also on the bump out?
Yes, this
So
is.
how are we supposed to do public comments unless you tell us what's going on?
Well, we're going to have your public comment that will inform our discussion. So now's your 3-minute opportunity.
Okay, Rob Gunther from 104 Wendell Road. I will continue to ask if you're going to proceed with bump out, but to only do the one that has general consensus. And if you are going to press on with the second, you consider an approach, which I think others may comment on too, to use the strip, the 3-foot, the grass strip, rather than build out 6 feet from the existing curb that has been used in other municipalities. But I would urge the council to do no more than that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vince Quinn, 68 Wendell Road. I'd like to understand from the president's speech that he needs more time to think about these bump outs, and there's going to be nothing further done until he finishes thinking about it.
That was the mayor, and the stormwater is on the agenda. So this is your time to comment.
Okay, so it's on the agenda. It's not being postponed.
No.
Okay. I'm wondering if the borough at any time has given consideration to the possible diminution in the real estate value of the homes that are directly and indirectly impacted by the bump outs. And I'm wondering if, going back long before I knew about the bump outs, if there was anything the borough could do as to apply for an exclusion to the demands of whatever was coming down from the state, and if not, why not? And are there anything that hasn't been explored and published for people in the borough to consider going forward?
Thank you. Moving down the second row.
I'm Patricia Murphy. My husband and I currently live at 70 Windale Road. We have been residents of Narberth for 54 years. We lived 9 years on North Essex Avenue and 45 years on Windale Road. We've served on the Narberth Civic Association. We served on the 4th of July Committee and have demonstrated our commitment to the borough. In lieu of this, thinking back of the borough and what it means, I have 2 comments. My first comment is that I think that 2 bump outs on one block long street is excessive. And the other comment is that for the future, if there's any project or plan that comes before council that involves taking away even 1 parking space from the borough of Narberth, it should never be considered.
Thank you. I'll start in the back row with you, sir.
Before you go to the previous section, could I say something?
Sure.
My name's Vernon Francis. I live on Windale Road, like lots of the folks here, at 7th Green. We moved, me, my wife, and our 2 children moved here in 1998. And I came to the last meeting where this was discussed and realized I was ignorant and didn't know a whole lot. And so I wound up doing some research and I found some things that concerned me about the project overall. And I understand you're finalizing things, and I don't mean to be overly critical of it or suspect any kind of bad faith on anyone's part. But my concern at first was that I just didn't like them, and I thought they were unattractive, and that they didn't add to the beauty of the borough. But I also have begun thinking about the idea that these things are basically poison collectors that sit in neighborhoods where children play. And the only expertise I've seen has been on the internet, and that's Google's AI and a couple of articles. But the concern, at least one of the concerns that we raised from the stuff I searched, was that you don't want children to be near this. And originally, this whole idea started with brownfields. I couldn't find anything that talked about its applicability to neighborhoods in general, or the children in neighborhoods in particular. But I think we all know, everybody who has kids, if a kid has a ball or a toy or something that can get into a place that it's not supposed to be, it'll wind up as a tuner with. And I'm just wondering how much thought went into the idea that this should be in a neighborhood where kids play. Because I don't think the more I learn about it, the more concerned I am about the idea that this would be in a neighborhood where children.
Thank you. Judy? Can I get her chair? I'm sorry, start in the back row. Back row?
Yeah, Peter Schmitz, 105 Windale Road. Feeling a bit of a newcomer, I've only been here 21 years, so I appreciate all my neighbors who have put in more effort and more time in the community. And I do appreciate the fact that so many people put in so much effort in the emergency situation of the weekend. I had one of my neighbors pull right out of his driveway as soon as it was over, and I go right to work. Back home every day. My own house, which is right at the corner of Shady Lane, is right at the nexus of a lot of the storm drains that then go into the creek and then go down the river. And I was feeling on Saturday afternoon, suddenly the skies turned dark and Niagara opened up above my house. I watched Lake Windale, as I call it, form again as everything backed up, because I could just tell the storm drains were overwhelmed downstream. It was not, even if there had been a slowing of the water coming down, which I don't think with that body of water would help, things were going to back up. And all of this I feel like Windale Road has not, we've been a little bit out of the line of fire. I know a lot of people are here that have talked about what's going on downtown, what's going on with the bridge, what's going on with State Park. And I feel like in Windale, at least in the near 21 years I've been there, we've been sort of out of the line of fire. We haven't been asked to do a lot for the community where we are. And I've been feeling kind of bad about that. And I know some people have spent more time than I have. But as I watched the water, pour into these 4 drains, which are literally right from my house, and I was looking, and I'd been arguing just a few days before with the garbage truck, which is running over my verge again, and the guys are yelling, "Why are you planting flowers there? It gets in the way of our truck." Well, I don't technically own this land. This is part of the roadway. I knew all this because I've been to the meetings. I hope that going forward, no matter what is decided today, I hope that there will be more communication both from us and to us on Windale Road. I would be more than happy to turn the verge in front of my house into a bioswale to collect more water, to keep water upstream before it goes downstream. I think that'd be great. And we could cut that curve so a big tractor could make it around the corner. That would be, so I'm hoping that whatever happens today in the council's determination, that there will be an ongoing process that do things for what we can about this overall situation that we're all living in. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's continue down.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tony Sanchez. I'm a 24-year resident in Narberth.
Give your address. Give your address, please.
I'm about to. The past 15 years, my wife and I have resided in Windale, and raising our 4 children there. Just to pick up on a couple of comments that I heard earlier, the mayor said we should consider other designs of bump outs, and Rob was alluding to some of the things he's heard about in their municipalities. We visited our son in Pittsburgh. We saw bump outs the way that they're doing in Pittsburgh that are about one third of the volume on the road versus what we're doing here in Narberth. And the reason they've done that is because the area that is between the road and the sidewalk is where the primary part of the bump out exists. So it does intrude into the road because, of course, it has to capture the water flow. But most of it most of the bump out area is consumed between the road and side. So it's just another design that we should consider. I generally agree with the sentiments of my Narberth, the Windale neighbors and friends that we, that one block space is doesn't make sense there too.
My name is Steve Devitt. I live at 61 Windale Road, and I do. I'm in favor of what my other neighbors have projected. I feel that 1 is deficient. I don't understand the purpose of 2, especially on a street that is not heavily traveled. And I guess that the borough would consider their determination of 2 bump outs.
Barbara?
Hi, I'm Ann Lytle. I live at 108 South Narberth Avenue. I regret that I couldn't be here to hear the mayor's words at the beginning, and I understand that we're talking about bump outs. I was wondering, and I hear everyone's concerns here. I also am aware that with climate change, our storms are getting more severe and more intense, as we've just experienced here in Narberth. And to that end, I was wondering if the borough might be able to share information, research that, when I say the borough, I mean the council, research that you do. What are the websites you use that inform your decisions about bioswales and bump outs? I think they're important, and I guess I'm asking, we can all do our own research and access many different things, but I was wondering maybe if the Borough Council could share the information just to provide resources for people to learn, and so that we know what's informing your thinking as well. Also, because there is all kinds of information out there. I had never heard, for example, for the residents of Windale, that those collect toxins and poisons and are harmful to children. I have heard that they collect, I guess, toxins, if you will, in a good. I haven't actually heard of it. they do collect things that would otherwise end up in other places. So the positive of them. Thank you.
I'm gonna go, you were in the hallway, Judy. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, no comment.
No comment. And we had one more. I'm sorry. Name and address?
Yeah. Catherine Costa, 201 Woodside. Been here since '87. I just have one sort of request, and that is as far as the zoning changes, if there is some way, I feel like I don't understand the process or your schedule of decision making. And I think it would be very helpful to everybody to know what is being decided when in your process, your advertising or, I don't know who's, the codification, like there's a codification and then there's the changes. So when all of those things are happening, when, and if there's a way to put something on the Borough website or something, just say this, look here now, this is what we're doing, because it's kind of like, you all are in the know, so you know what's going on, but I feel like people like myself, it's like, oh my gosh, there's something there, and I didn't even know about it. So I don't even know to look for it. So I think if there was some way to be more communicative going forward with your plans and the schedule and the meetings and what's being discussed at the meetings, etc. That, I think, would make a lot of people feel more comfortable, because you don't want to get caught by surprise. Oh my gosh, that was done and I didn't even know about it. So, and I know that there's going to be some advertising, what paper are you advertising it? Where are you advertising it? When are the placards going up? Where are they going up? Something to just, have people like ourselves who are backing onto the Elmwood Avenue property. I would feel a lot better. So that's all I want to say. That's my comment.
Thank you. We'll move to online. Emily, we can just go in the order of hands raised.
Like we have 2 right now.
Okay. We just ask them to unmute.
The volume's not working.
It's probably on their end.
We hear you.
Carol Marie?
Yes, good afternoon. Carol Marie Scanlon, Sabine Avenue. So I am asking what the update is for any RFP for Sabine, or any update for the development on the entire 201 Sabine property. Has the RFP been sent out, prepared? Is there anything going on with development plans on any section of the property? And my next question is for, I guess it'd be for Councilmember Borough. For public safety, I was seeing some of these trees that have fallen over, for example, the one over at the War Memorial, and that was rotten to the core. What is the borough's plan to inspect the trees that are especially on borough property to prevent them from falling over? We had 2 trees on our property that were 100 years old that we had taken down about maybe, 5 or 7 years ago, that were absolutely rotten to the core, that were a danger to our neighborhood, our neighbors, our houses, and our cars. What's the borough's plan to inspect trees? Because it's really scary to see how rotten the trees are that had fallen. So that's something I think is very important and needs to be addressed.
We're not going to answer questions now, Carmen, but we'll take note of them. Do you have any further public comment?
No. When will we find out? When will you put a public statement out to say what's going to be happening to inspect the trees for public safety?
We'll follow up with that with committee. Thank you. If you can unmute the next person.
Yeah, it looks like David Bordeaux is next. You want to unmute yourself?
Sure, thank you. David Borough, 104 Chestnut Avenue. At the last meeting I attended, I commented on the April 28th, 2016 meeting when the form-based zoning code was passed. There's still no acknowledgement of that meeting on the borough website. I also had made mention towards the end of public comment that the April 2025 Planning Commission meeting, they did not provide documents to the public they were discussing. They're still not up on the website as well. I think it's important that if we're making these zoning changes that we should take a look at the history in the past of what was being discussed during those meetings. Finally, what I would actually recommend, I apologize, I'm looking at a couple different things, is I'd recommend that council actually has a table read of the transcript from the April 2016 council meeting when you passed the form-based zoning code to understand what was the public was being shared and what we're seeing right now. So it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but go around and I think we should understand what was the public was or what we were being told about this code about a decade ago. Last or two last comments. What are the laws about posting meeting agendas, minutes, and documents that are being discussed during council meetings and also committee meetings? And finally, the last thing I'll say is I want to thank Jeff Eldon, the Public Works Department. They did a fantastic job. Our first responders, PICO, and the borough office. I truly do appreciate all the work that they did during this storm the past week. And that's all, but I would like to know maybe from our borough solicitor what the laws are in regarding posting meeting agendas, minutes, and documents that are being discussed during the meetings.
Thanks, David. We're going to continue to go through public comment now, and I'll get those answers to you via staff.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next is Jackie.
Yes, hi, this is Jacqueline Morrison from 319 Grayling Avenue in Narberth. I just wanted to echo David's thanks to the borough for all of your work with the storm management. The other item, switching gears, and I just joined a few minutes ago and I apologize, so I may have missed what I'm about to ask about, but the residents survey for what they would like to see as far as density and development, there was a summary that came out that I think was written by someone on Borough Council that seemed to favor increased density, but then I saw actual data and an analysis of the actual data by somebody else, and it really showed that the majority of residents were not in favor of increased density, and that was shown by the data that was collected as a result of that survey. So that was a cause for concern to me. So I hope that will be addressed at some point if it hasn't already, maybe in this meeting and I missed it. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Not seeing anyone else. If anyone else online has a public comment, you can raise your hand. Right now, I'm not seeing any additional.
Okay, let's move on. I have notes of themes and comments of folks to follow up with and council members to follow up with. So thank you. We'll close public comment and move to the consent agenda. If I can get a motion to approve.
Do you want to do these separately or the whole thing?
No, consent agenda. Yep.
I move to approve the consent agenda. I move for approval A through D.
I second.
Do we want to discuss, Maggie? Anything you feel we need to discuss? Consent agenda, we can take a vote.
Just need to
A through D?
identify the people on 8D.
Yes, I'm sorry. We could call out certainly the board and commission appointees to NIDA, Police Pension Funds, and Police Advisory Committee. Jim?
I don't know. Do you have those?
Yeah, I have, we have Harville Wells, we have Gregory Winfield and Matt Patrick, and Greg Ridgway, who all stepped up. So if there's no comment, we can take a vote for our consent agenda. All those in favor? See Fred? Okay, that's great. Let's move on then to our first consideration item, item A, adoption of ordinance number 1072, chapter 240, Uniform Construction Code. Can I get a motion?
Move to adopt ordinance 1072, chapter 240, uniform construction.
I second.
Ms. Dobbs, do you want to actually share? Mr. Walko? Okay.
This is a requirement that all municipalities in Pennsylvania have to go through because Pennsylvania, through the Pennsylvania Uniform Construction Code, adopted the 2021 codes, where we were previously operating in the 2018 codes. Again, that is right, but it's 21 codes that were adopted, even though we're in 26. So this is just an ordinance to acknowledge that we, pursuant to that Commonwealth law, are following the updated, revised series of construction code, whether it be building codes, electric codes, plumbing codes, all of the codes that are necessary for our building inspectors before reviewing when there is an issue or when something is being built. So that's simply what it does, but then also provides, well, I should say, it maintains some of the exceptions and some of the specifications that Narberth Borough has had in those codes and that we're maintaining. So the majority of the ordinance is going through the provisions of the international codes and sort of making the tweaks that are Narberth specific. Those were included after review from our code official and fire marshal. And a lot of the times it's the same that we already had, but because the form code was changed, we need to tweak ours to be in line with those codes as well. So really it's a technical change. I wouldn't anticipate there's any change anyone would see from it. And again, it just would authorize our code officials to 2021 code when they go out to inspect.
Any questions from council members? Okay, hearing none, can we take a vote? All those in favor? Right, so yeah. Okay, approved, so approved. Can I get a motion for consideration item 9B to authorize the bid advertisement of stormwater bump outs and intersection improvements?
I move to authorize the bid advertisement for the 2026 stormwater bump out project for the locations discussed and agreed during this meeting, although they haven't been discussed or
I'll do
agreed.
that.
Okay.
Can I get a
Thank
second? Second. Okay, Ms. Dobbs, should we ask you or Tony?
Second. Okay, Ms. Dobbs, should we ask you or Tony?
Yes, so we have, I don't know if everyone will pull the list for everyone to see the chart. So we have recommendations. So in your packet, you have the memo summarizing the recommendations from our engineer. So following last month's meeting where we had
recording in progress.
Oh, we're back. Are we back? Hold on. We got kicked out. Let's just give a minute for people to reconnect online.
We're good. We're good.
So following last month's meeting, we had feedback. There was some questions about location, placement, and could we take a look at different areas where we could modify the location of the bump outs that we're considering to reduce the impacts on any single one property owner. So our engineer went back to the drawing board, took a look at just about every single property on Windale that was west of the stormwater inlets, because again, anything east of those inlets wouldn't be captured in the collection area. I did want to just point out there was some questions just today about the toxicity of the sediments that are being collected. I just want to make clear there is nothing toxic or pollutant.
They can't hear you online.
Oh.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt. There we go.
So I was just addressing what is actually. Addressing what is actually being collected in these stormwater bump outs. So these do not serve as a stormwater management from a volume control. This is a sediment capture. Right now, any sediment, we're talking dirt, we're talking grit from the roadway, we're talking vegetation, debris, and other things that would normally kind of wash off of lawns, wash off of cars, and wash off of the roadways just go into the stormwater inlets right now. Those go into our storm sewer collection conveyance pipes, and those just get washed out to the stream. So the stormwater bump outs are intending to serve as a capture mechanism for that sediment that would then get collected in the basins that are cleared out by our public works department. And so there's nothing that's going to be toxic. There's nothing that's in these bump outs that wouldn't otherwise be on the roadway. And what this does is that it creates this capture mechanism for these sediments prior to them going into the waterways. So this is a water quality measure that actually improves the water quality of our area waterways. So in looking at the collection mechanisms, we also had discussions to split properties so that we're not just putting the bump outs in front of one particular property. In looking at the different drainage areas, there's drainage on the north side of the roadway and the south side of the roadway, and Tony can explain it a little bit more. But we have 3 different areas where things drain into. So we have the question, why are we considering 2 bump outs? We are considering 2 because you have different areas of the roadway that are draining into different sections that don't overlap. So we can capture more of that sediment along the same roadway, which gives us more credits, which helps us achieve our MS4 sediment reduction requirements that are outlined in our pollutant reduction plan. So we have a couple of ones that were identified here. So the chart here lists the different locations. So these are house numbers that we're referencing. We don't have drawings at this point because we haven't identified the specific locations. So these would be roughly about the same size as what is being discussed previously. Tony, I don't know if you have exact dimensions. But the ones that are highlighted are going to be the ones that are recommended by our engineer because they achieve the goals of splitting the property frontages. So they're not all in front of one property, and they give us the highest.
We can't see what you're
doing. If you're pointing up there, nobody can see.
Joe, can you?
Sure.
Numbers up there?
There's
on the north side at number 53. Is that a house number?
It is, yeah. Did it just unplug? I need to reconnect the computer to the television. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
All right, we back online? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. I'm going to ask everyone to please let Ms. Dawes continue.
All right, so we have the ones that are being recommended would be a location on the north side in between house number 61 and 63. So the drainage area for this is about 114,000 square feet, which would give us an estimated credit capture of 2,763 pounds of sediment captured. That is in the drainage area, the north side, in drainage area A, we called it. And then we have drainage area C. So this is the south side at house number 94. This one is being recommended again because this gives us the other highest credit capture while being in a different drainage area than the north side. This one does not straddle 2 properties. However, the length of the bump out can be limited so that we would still be able to permit a single on-street parking space directly in front of this house. So this particular house will not lose an on-street parking space in front. So we would allow for up to a 20-foot parking space in front of this house. So those are the 2 that are recommended by our engineer. So he went and took a look at all of the criteria that were tasked to him by council following the discussion last month. And these are the recommendations that you have before you today.
Okay, thanks. Council members, I just want to reiterate, this is just a Q&A time for council members, not a time for public comment. So I'll open up this to council members. Why don't I start with Fred online? Any questions, Fred?
No, I don't have any questions. And just a reminder, the reason why we were looking at bump bump outs that would straddle two properties was that we were paying attention to concerns that using up the entire frontage of a property for any kind of improvement was a big step. So we were looking for ways that would allow a significant amount of frontage to remain for all the affected properties.
Conversation to step out in the hallway so everyone can hear.
I'm confused
Thank you.
but we can't tell which properties.
Okay.
We didn't understand what you said the last time about all these addresses.
Okay, I'm going to let the engineer address that. Councilmember Bush. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. We couldn't hear.
Yeah, so we asked our engineering team to provide us with locations that would not take up the entire frontage of one property, and then within those set of locations to provide us with recommendations that would have the most stormwater capture. So that was what we asked, and that's what we came up with here. So just a reminder of how we got here. And that's all I have to say at this point. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you. I'll go around the table. Joe, do you want to start?
Well, I think one thing that's maybe not clear for people in the room is that it's the green highlights that are the recommended properties. Is that correct? Tony?
Yeah, the two green highlights are the two that are incorrect. And then the rest that you see on the list, on the top section of the page, those are the new recommendations that I came up with over the past month per council's new requirements. The ones that you see on the bottom of the page were the original recommendations, prior to.
So what is being recommended?
Thank you. I'm sorry, sir. This is not a Q&A now for public comment. Just that. I'm going to ask you to please sit so we could have a conversation. Thank
What
you.
you're doing impacts people's lives. Stop treating people like that.
John, I'm going to ask you to please hold on.
I'm going to ask you to be more honest in
John, I'm going to ask you to please stop. Council, I'm going to go around. Councilmember Solomon.
I mean, just to make it clear, I think, as I understand it, the recommendation is one in front of 94 and one that straddles the two properties on 61 and 63. It's the current revised recommendation. I think 94 was the original recommendation, right? That has not changed. So we're only talking about changing the recommendation on the north side of the street. I have spent a lot of time talking to the residents of Glendale and trying to come up with a solution. No solution is going to please everyone. I think really the debate for tonight is my sense in talking to folks on Glendale and among my colleagues is that the proposal for 94, I won't say is not without some controversy because I have heard some people say that they don't want any bump outs there. But in general, that is less controversial than the question of the bump out on the north side and whether one or two is necessary. So I just want to put that out there. We actually had an interesting question today about whether it was possible to put the bump out in the verge instead of, on the street to make concerns about narrowing the street. Less of an issue. Tony really quickly and kindly responded this afternoon and explained why that could work in other situations, but the verge is not really wide enough to implement what would be needed in this particular situation. So unfortunately, I thought it was a great idea. I'm so excited this afternoon. Finally, we have a solution that could work, but apparently it doesn't work from an engineering standpoint. And I will defer to Tony on that because I am not an engineer. I do want to address their, again, concerns about safety, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Whether putting these bump outs into the roadway would create a safety hazard. And I personally asked the fire marshal to go out there and do the measurements to assure us that it does not create a safety hazard for his equipment. He assured me that we are fine. It's actually, the proposed bump outs are actually narrower than what a typical vehicle would take up on the roadway. So if it were a true safety issue, we'd have to reconsider parking on the road altogether, which obviously doesn't seem to be a logical issue. So I do want to reiterate that from a safety standpoint, the fire marshal to give his blessing to us on the issue of where that is. Looking at this, I mean, I do have a little bit of a concern here about on the north side, the new proposal, because the engineer, if I'm understanding this, is saying the disadvantage of it is that the people across the street would have to, it's going to back out into their, if they're backing out their driveway, it's across the street from where their driveways are.
Less of a lift than a car.
Right. Well, so finish the thought. We are, if we are going to do that, and it's an if from my perspective, I think it's all the more important that we approve the proposed fencing that we would put around it from a sightline perspective, because I could see very easily you not sort of seeing the edge of the bump out otherwise, but the fence might improve that. So, you know, hopefully we're going to improve the expenditure for the fencing no matter what, but I think that's an important consideration. I still want to hear from Tony as to what happens if we only approve one of these bump outs as opposed to two. Explain to us the negatives and positives slowly so that I can make an informed decision.
And in the context of our larger MSW requirement.
Yeah.
Tony, can I pass that over to you, Jim, if that's okay? I'll go.
Yeah, that's fine. In terms of how this will work from DEP's perspective, you know, they're ultimately looking for progress, you know, towards our goal. So if we show them two bump outs, you know, we show them somewhere around 4,000 credits, give or take, that'll look good. If we only do one bump out and show them about 2,000 credits, or, you know, whatever it ends up being, that'll still look pretty good. You know, they're not going to look negatively on us if we do one versus two. What they won't really like to see is if they see that we did nothing this year. But the difference between one and two won't make much of a difference.
Jim?
All right. Oh, that's news to me. So.
Hold on, if I can just jump in real fast. So while they may not look disfavorably in terms of our annual progress, we do have an ultimate goal of our PRP that we have to achieve. So we would then just have to put more bump outs somewhere else because within the permit cycle that we're within, the other solutions that were identified in the PRP are not feasible at this point, which were some of the improvements in Narberth Park along Haverford Avenue. We do have plans when we get into discussing the capital plan. I'm going to explain to you kind of some of the phasing that we're thinking of in terms of some other stormwater improvements that we're looking at in this area that will impact our future PRP, but we won't be able to accomplish that just logistically or financially within the permit cycle that we're in right now. So we do have to be mindful of the permit cycle, what our PRP requirements are, and our ability to kind of hit these metrics. So it's like, you know, when NPR has their fundraising goal and they have hourly goals, each annual bump out program is trying to hit our kind of hourly goal so that we can hit our end funding goal or our PRP goal at the end of our permit cycle.
Thank you for that larger context.
I just,
can I let Jim, because he has
the floor. But I think,
let me get everybody around and then I'll loop back again.
Fair enough.
Jim?
So if our ultimate goal is measured in cumulative credits, I take it the idea is we're supposed to make as much progress on these projected credits this year. Is that the idea?
Yes.
And that if we only authorize one bump out this year, we'll be short another year, or we'll be short further down the line?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I do understand why people don't like these, because they're not the greatest things. And I'm always wary about things that take up things in the right of way. However, this is what was negotiated back in 2020 when council came up with this pollution reduction plan. This is our method for producing these credits that the state is going to accept cumulatively over our period, whatever period this is that we're that we're obliged to do these. And it would be nice that we could get someday to some renegotiation where we could provide other solutions. But at this moment, there are no other alternatives other than to keep building these things. And that's my understanding from the engineer and from the explanation here. So last month, when we heard the concerns from neighbors about the loss of parking spaces, I was encouraged that we were coming up with solutions, coming up with ideas that still left a parking space in front of the house. And in fact, I think we did alter the number 94 because we talked about the same principle applying there, that a whole bump out not take up an entire frontage, and that now the new proposal will allow up to 20-foot parking there. So it's not perfect. These are the concerns we've heard from people, and I believe we're responding to them in this way. Now, the other big concern I've heard was with emergency access. I do understand that the fire chief has provided an assurance that these do not affect emergency response or fire truck access. So, I think we just have to do it, and I believe we've come to a place where we've responded to at least some of the concerns. And we're going to have to do more next year, and it's going to be that much harder, and it's going to be on the streets, and we're going to have to do it all over again. But for now, that's the way it is.
Jean?
So I think the main concerns that we heard from the last meeting and here was the loss of parking and the fact that some of the stormwater bump outs could take up the whole curb frontage. So I do believe splitting the 61 and 63, splitting that location there provides a solution that solves for that concern. And I do think we addressed the safety issue as well. And just to build on what Manager Dobbs and Councilmember Spear said, this is legally required by the state, and it's part of our pollutant reduction plan, which was adopted and submitted to the state. And so we do have an obligation to meet those requirements. And in terms of flexibility on the pollutant reduction plan and different alternatives, we don't really have an alternative at this point.
Joe, you kind of got half a bite of the apple.
Yep.
Do you want another?
Certainly, thank you. I want to share that I really appreciate everything that's been said and agree. And I just want to share with the public that I live on the corner of Dudley and Price, and there's a bump out that's on the schedule to be on that corner as well. So I have a lot of skin in the game in terms of, can't find the right word, but it's not I haven't said when I saw that, like, awesome, a bump out on next to my property. So I do share, empathetically with, residents who are having these bump outs on or near your properties. And from being on council since January, I have learned a lot about, the why behind why we need these in Narberth and how they are necessary, and that I too will be losing some space, near my house, on my property, not on my property, in the street next to my property, and it seems like it's something that is necessary, And so I'm supportive of the one that's going to go, on the road next to my property, as I am supportive of others, as long as, we're being very thoughtful about safety, as we are, reassurance from the fire marshal, and very thoughtful about the impact on the individual property. And so those are the thoughts I want to share. Thank you.
Mike, I'll move back to you as chair as infrastructure, and then I'm going to move to suggesting we make a vote.
I mean, I worked really hard the last 2 months trying to come up with a solution that, a good compromise means that nobody's happy, right? That's a term, you say that in the law all the time, right? A good settlement means both sides walk away unhappy. I just, and I have no problem with the one that was originally proposed for 94. I do want to note that the residents of one of the Stroud properties couldn't be here tonight, and did voice their objection to having it straddle part of their property. And I think it's important that we acknowledge that. I guess, where I'm torn right now is on the second one, hearing Tony saying, we're showing adequate progress with one, and I recognize that means catching up somewhere else. I guess one thing is, are there, and we actually, I also don't want to forget, I know what I want to do, but let me finish this on. Obviously, if we're doing this all at once, I assume that there's some economies of scale, cost savings doing two versus if we did one now and continue to try and explore a better place that's going to cost the borough more money. If we came back to Wendell eventually and said, yeah, they have to have a second one. See nods just went out there. I don't want to forget that part of this improvement, part of this motion is the intersection improvements, which you haven't talked about at all. And I just, Maggie, could you just describe what we're doing there? So, because actually one of the members of the public raised exactly the issue, and we haven't. That is part of this as well, and I think it should be.
That's
briefly mentioned.
That's right. Yeah. So as a component of this, we wouldn't normally do this as part of a bump out project per se. But given that we would have a contractor come and do the bump out or bump outs, we would also then benefit from the economies of scale to have the contractor add in the intersection improvements, which is to widen the curve on the northeast side of the intersection of Shady and Windale. And that is to address that road curvature and the turning movements that large vehicles make. So it would add in, we have the ADA program scheduled for that corner, widening of the radius of that intersection on that corner. So that would be included as part of this overall bid. So the again benefit of Windale is that we get good capture rates for the sediment control. It being a low volume road, we're also eligible for the low volume road grant. So from a funding perspective, we are eligible for that grant money, which means that our capital dollars can spend further in other areas. And then we're doing the kind of add-on intersection improvement as part of this to benefit from that mobilization efforts to have a single contractor come and do multiple improvements along the same roadway.
Okay, so I'd like to propose that we vote on the two bump outs as recommended by our borough engineer and staff. Let's start there. So if we can amend, who made the motion? Joe, if you want to amend the motion that's on the table. Now, I believe the side structure, John?
You need the person who made the motion and then the second person who agreed with it.
Okay, so let's start there to amend the motion to the two properties. The recommendations of the engineer on both the north side and the south side as stated in the report.
I move to authorize the bid advertisement for the 2026 stormwater bump out project for the locations that were outlined and highlighted in green as recommended by the borough engineer and were discussed and agreed to during the meeting.
Can I get a second?
Well, who seconded it originally?
I think I did.
You in agreement with that?
Second. Okay, so we are voting with the engineer and staff recommendation for 2 bump outs. I can't see Fred. All in favor, say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So approved.
Yes, for.
All those opposed? 1. 5-1. Okay. Thank you all to staff, council members, and neighbors for being involved, and engineers for helping us evaluate what was a really hard decision. Okay, we're moving on then. If I can get a motion for agenda item 9C to authorize installation of bump out fencing. Cindy, I'm sorry.
You separated the intersection improvements.
Oh, and intersection improvement.
Right,
I'm including it.
Yeah, so I wanted to get clarity if you wanted to then include the intersection.
Yes, and include intersection. I apologize for that in the intersection improvements. Do we have to vote on that?
I would just make sure everybody on council is aware.
Then let's folks, the motion on the table is for, thank you for that catch, 9B, authorizing bid advertisement for stormwater bump outs as noted and recommended by our borough engineer and staff, and intersection improvements. All those in favor? Okay, all those opposed? We're still 5-1. Thank you, folks. I apologize. Moving on then to 9C. Can I get a motion?
9C is the installation of the bump out fencing. I make a motion to approve the purchase and the installation of the stormwater bump out safety fencing as presented.
Can I get a second? Ms. Dobbs, do you want to talk about this? Tony, Mike, we have lots of folks who have worked hard on it.
I would love to have Director Eldon explain this one. This is his find, so I want to give him credit.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
I've been trying to rack through my brain here when this was in front of you. I know it was maybe 2 months ago, but we didn't have exact pricing at that point. So this fencing is something that we saw on the way to the zoo. I thought it looked attractive, so we reached out to our engineers who actually designed them as well for downtown. We got put in touch with the iron shop. We got the pricing for them. So for our existing 8 bump outs that we have, $10,152 is the total price of the fencing itself, plus about an additional $150 for just general anchoring. We did not include the 2 that were just approved. We do not know the final length. So once we get that, plan for them. But this was done, just to prevent any potential trip and falls from the sidewalk down. Fortunately, we've had 0 accidents with our existing 8, but we really did that. So there's about a 4-week lead time from approval, so that would put us kind of towards the end of August when we're going to get these. So hopefully that lines up. We can get them installed right away.
That's great. Thanks. And this was in response to the community concerns that what if someone fell in? So thanks for doing that homework and research, Mr. Eldon. Any comments, questions from council? Maybe Fred, I'll start with you.
No, not at this time. Again, this is similar to what Philadelphia is doing, so I feel like there's a reason for it, and it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thanks. I'll go around the table again. Mike?
No, I mean, it just reminds me that we did ask at one of the meetings about whether there had been any safety incidents involving the bump outs, and our chief told us that there were. No. So we're just enhancing the safety of
that. Great. Jim?
I have no concern with that.
Gene?
And Jeff, just want to, these are 18 inches tall, correct? Very nice. Thank you. Nothing else.
Hearing no concerns, let's take a vote on approving the authorization for installation of bump out fencing. All those in favor? All those opposed? Nope. Okay, we have a 6-0 here. Okay, let's move on. Can I please 9D have a motion to authorize the advertisement of ordinance 1070 zoning recodification?
I'm going to authorize the advertisement of ordinance 1070 zoning codification.
Mr. Walco, is that, oh wait, can I get a second? Sorry. Second, great. Thank you, Jim Sperry. Mr. Walco, can I ask you to comment?
Sure. I'm actually reading a summary of this from the rnarbor.com website right now. So I think it's a good explanation of what this ordinance does. And it says the recodification is a top to bottom reorganization of the entire zoning code. The Borough's own website describes it as a policy neutral amendment. It doesn't change any of the rules. What it does is clean up the document. Narberth's form-based code was adopted in 2016 and has been amended more than 15 times through individual ordinances. Each amendment was stitched into the existing text, creating cross-references that are hard to follow, tables and footnotes that modify their own values in non-obvious ways, conditional use provisions scattered across multiple sections. If you ever tried to read the current code and figure out what's actually allowed on a given lot, you know the experience. You start in one section, descend to a table, the table has a footnote, the footnote sends you to another section. By the time you arrive, you've forgotten what you're looking at. The recodification reorganizes all of this into a structure that's easier to navigate, read, and understand. Same rules, clear presentation. Montgomery County Planning Commission has been helping prepare the rewrite. I think that's a great summary.
Thank you for whoever wrote that.
And again, this was done This was done in conjunction with what I think the confusion is of those future substantive changes that, to my knowledge, has not been put on paper yet and is just sort of being discussed. So what this ordinance really does is again, that policy neutral changes. There are no substantive changes related to uses or heights. There are some new definitions and some amended definitions, but nothing that would really result in substantive changes. For example, we all know what a library is, but they've amended the definition of a library, or what a roof is, effectively changes to that, and have removed terms that had the definition but weren't actually in the code, and then tweaked some of the definitions just to make sure there's some clarity there. I read in terms of superfluous language, things like a retail bank, or a lot of our adult regulations, like what is a cabaret, what are specified anatomical areas. Again, nothing that's making a substantive change to any use or a property. And I think the idea ultimately was to pass this code so that any future code changes would have a good foundation to start from. That's all that's before council today for advertisement. Again, you're not taking action on approving anything today. And if it was approved for advertisement, just those non-substantive changes would be adopted, not any of the future changes if the council decides to continue those discussions related to, again, heights, setbacks, intensity of use, parking, that's not included.
Thank you, Mr. Walco. I'm going to start with Fred just because he's on Zoom. Fred, any comments, concerns, questions?
No, I mean, I think a lot of council members have gone over this with a fine-tooth comb over several months, and I know planning commissioners have also been making sure that this document is clean and is ready. And as everyone said, it doesn't change policy, so I think it's clear, and I think it deals with a lot of minor issues that people were confused about in the past in our code. So I think it's a good change.
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to go in and start with Jim and go around so everybody has a first comment.
Oh, yeah. So this has definitely been worked to the last detail. And I was in on the last meetings where the final formation of it was being put. And, it's been delayed a couple months to make sure it's in exactly the right shape. And I'm convinced that it is. And it's about time to pass it.
I really wanted to thank the Planning Commission for working on this because I know it was a very heavy lift to go through the entire zoning code line by line to make sure everything is clear and make sure nothing is lost and make sure nothing is changed. There were some, whatever concerns I had before were just about clarity and things that were confusing. But I think this final draft kind of solves for all of that, and it does make it more clear. You don't have to go digging for throughout the document to figure out what is allowed and what is strict. I appreciate it.
I agree with all that's been said, and also want to personally thank everybody who's worked so hard on this and put lots and lots of hours in. I have tremendous gratitude.
I just, I want to specifically call out Todd because Mr. Bessie really worked an inordinate number. This is a classic case of somebody putting in an inordinate number of hours on behalf of all of us in the borough, unpaid, unsung, etc. I also want to just, Michael's not here, and I want to acknowledge, we may disagree on lots of things, but Michael sort of was the guy I leaned on to make sure that this was done in a way that seemed right and appropriate. It's his expertise, and any concerns I had, he immediately took and addressed, and I want to acknowledge him for that. I did have the question, I think it was Mr. Snyder said that there was some inconsistency between the map and the thing, and if you're willing to talk to Mr. Walco about that afterwards, just to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and again, I think we can still make those.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. If there is something there that needs to be tweaked, I assume.
Yeah, as long as it's a non-substantive change to what's proposed.
So are you willing to
Sure.
chat with him? Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm surprised to hear it because there's been so many eyes on this, but another pair of eyes is always good.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. You beat me to it.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's vote, please. All those in favor to authorize the advertisement of ordinance 1070, amending chapter 500 zoning. All in favor?
That's reasons.
Yep. Okay. Any opposed? Nope. We are a 6-1 or 6-0. Sorry. Okay. Moving on, 9E. May I have a motion to authorize the capital expenditure for a building elevator at 100 Conway?
I move to authorize the capital expenditure for the building elevator at 100 Conway.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Ms. Dobbs, you have talked about this a lot with us. Do you want to do a quick review?
Yeah, so we had in our capital plan.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you all.
In our capital plan that was approved last year and in our budget for our capital expenditures for this year, we had looked at approving expenditures to repair our elevator here at Borough Hall, 100 Conway. The elevator has been around for many decades. The mechanical components of it are starting to fail, and these parts are no longer made. So what we need to do is to replace the elevator. Just for clarity, we're not replacing the car of the elevator. That's the actual box that sits in the elevator shaft itself. But we're replacing all of the mechanical and electrical components. So the electrical panel within the actual car itself, and then the mechanical components that are in the elevator room, which is actually off of the multi-purpose room. We had a couple of estimates. All of the vendors that we sought quotes from are CoStar's vendors, so we do not have to go out to bid for this. We did receive a couple of quotes. They do vary in price, but the actual scope of work that's included within them varies a little bit. So there is one that is a lower price, but does not include as many of the features as we'd be looking for. So we would end up looking to then add some additional costs on top of that. And given the fact that one of our housemen, Ken Watson, has worked with Pincus and other buildings that he manages, and has really good things to say, they are the most competitively priced, that give us the most comprehensive work that we're looking for at the most reasonable price. And they do offer non-proprietary parts, which means that moving forward, we're not locked into a specific contract with any one particular vendor. So we'll be able to maintain the elevator moving forward in a most cost-effective manner. So staff is recommending, and as recommended by the Infrastructure Committee, that we move forward with the quote from Pincus to do the elevator work. And we would be looking to schedule that work towards the end of December to try to coincide with the New Horizons winter break, to try to limit the interruption to our ADA access as much as possible. We do anticipate the work will take about 3 weeks to complete. So our elevator will be unfortunately not operational during that time, but this will hopefully secure a functional elevator for the next 40 to 50 years.
Great. Let's start with Jean. Any comments, questions, concerns? Yeah, comments.
Thanks for pointing out that the elevator will be out for a few weeks. How do we handle that with regard to New Horizons or other people who might need to access
Right, well, we're going to be coordinating with them. So one of the reasons why we're timing it the way that we are is because they do take a winter break and do not hold events or have gatherings here. So for a period of time, they won't be operating. So, we won't have the ADA for regular building use, but the New Horizons use won't be operational, and they're the majority of the users during the day. And then outside of that, we'll just coordinate with them. They do now have their other location at Ashbridge. If there's other locations that we might be able to provide for them at other borough properties, we haven't talked about that yet, but we will be coordinating with them to ensure that we limit their interruptions to the greatest extent possible. And they're aware of this already and know that this is coming. Fred, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I was called upon once to try to help someone who was stuck in that elevator. So the fire department has expertise in massaging it and then getting people out. But yeah, I think it's well past time to get this handled.
Yeah, I just, we recommended not the lowest bid just because I'd run into that issue of proprietary, then you have to use their proprietary equipment. If they go out of business, then you're stuck, basically redoing the whole thing. So I just want to comment that, while it might look like it's the cheapest bid in the long run, it's not actually likely going to be that way. So, if we were looking more at the long term, this is hopefully a long term project. I think we should probably discuss it when we meet, whether we're going to make it available to New Horizons, Girl Scout, room if we can.
Yeah, I'm sure. Not your job's just
and again, nothing has been discussed yet, so I didn't want to necessarily promise anything until we've had those discussions, but that is...
It's a future discussion.
Great. Thanks. Jim?
Yeah, no concerns. I'm glad it's getting updated, fixed.
No one wants to get stuck in an elevator.
I think I was there. I might have been there a different time, but on election day, somebody got stuck there last year.
Not fun. So let's vote. All those in favor? Okay, that's great. 6-0. Okay, can I please get a motion for 9F to authorize the capital expenditure for the leaf box and leaf vacuum?
I move to approve the capital fund expenditure in the amount of $9,869.91 for the leaf vacuum and leaf box purchase.
Very good.
Second.
I know we've talked about this a lot. Do we want to give Mr. Eldon, you want to give a summary of a leaf box and vacuum?
You've all heard it, you've all seen it, the world's most expensive leaf cleanup operation, complements the borough, the skid steer, the sweeper, and everything, this is going to simplify our fall cleanup efforts at our borough parks and at our properties. This leaf box will get attached to a truck that we currently own, and the vacuum will mount to the hitch, so no additional vehicles are needed. We're using our existing trucks through there, and this is just greatly scaled. Street speed for the skid steer is 300 miles an hour. It goes from a 4-man operation to
Yeah, I'm going to throw this out. Anybody have any questions or concerns about this? Okay, we're solid. Let's go. All in favor of approving the funds for leaf box and vacuum, say aye. Okay, I see 6. It passes unanimously.
You want to say aye?
No, I counted.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. And can I get the added amended item G is to authorize the repurchase of the Ford Explorer as recommended by Chief String. We can just pass it.
I move to authorize the repurchase of the Ford Explorer as recommended by Chief String due to the damage that occurred from the flooding.
I get a second? Okay. All right. So to summarize what happened, so we had the storm on Saturday. One of our police vehicles, the Ford Explorer, was caught in that and did experience some damage. At this point, we are still waiting on a formal analysis. So
we don't have the most up-to-date information yet. So what we wanted to do was to add this as an agenda item tonight to get direction from council on expenditure of funds as we move forward to replace this vehicle, because this is the vehicle that we had scheduled in our CIP for replacement next year. So this is a 2022 Ford Explorer that's part of our police fleet. We did decide a couple of years ago that we were looking to replace our police vehicles every 5 years. Technology changes, they get a lot of wear and tear. So this was scheduled for replacement in 2027, and we had already started talking about putting that in our CIP. So you actually see that in the CIP for the 2027 for next year. Unfortunately, the timing is a little bit goofy, and because this was the vehicle that experienced some damage, if in fact it turned out to be a total loss, then we will need to replace this vehicle. As an aside, one of our other police vehicles is in the shop, and it has been for about 2 weeks. So out of the 4 vehicles, we're actually only running 2 right now. So we are supplementing with Chief's vehicle. So he's driving his personal vehicle, and the Mach-E is being used as a patrol car for the time being. So we are making it work. Public safety is not being compromised because of this, but we do need to have some direction to move forward on this. So at this time, because we don't have the final determination from the insurance company as to the totality of the car, and if it is totaled or if it needs to be repaired, we don't have a cost for that. So we did start looking at costs for replacement vehicles. So we could go ahead and just move up then the acquisition of our 2027 vehicle to 2026, just to account for then the loss of this vehicle. So we would move it then from 27 to 26 and just move that up in the capital plan to account for this unexpected loss. If that's the case, then we would just need authorization to proceed with that expenditure, given that this is a police vehicle, and because we do need to make sure that our fleet is up and running, and also police vehicles need certain amounts of time to be upfit, to be kitted out with the various mechanical and electrical components to hook up all of the computer systems and things. We do want to move on this as soon as we have determination from the insurance company how we're going to proceed. So we would like your guidance and direction then on what you would like to proceed in terms of the acquisition. If you would go ahead and give us the authorization to purchase that new vehicle, and again, move up the capital expenditure from 27 to 26 to replace this vehicle at this time.
And gas, right? We're going to take this recommendation.
That's correct. So there was some conversation about wanting to move the full fleet to EV vehicles. Currently, the Ford Explorer is the only gasoline-powered vehicle that we have in our fleet. So we have 3 EV vehicles, plus we have a Nissan Leaf, which is our parking enforcement vehicle, and then the 1 gas-powered vehicle. We do have some concerns about having a full EV fleet, just because we would have to increase our infrastructure at Borough Hall to have a completely electric vehicle fleet. We would likely have to increase our charging ports, and we would need to potentially also then increase our generator. We don't believe that our current generator has the juice to be able to power the building, and our EV chargers to power all of our vehicles. So in the event of a storm with a prolonged power outage, this could put us at a distinct disadvantage to not being able to provide enough public safety to our community. So we do want to have the option of having a gasoline-powered vehicle, which we know would run even in the event of a storm. And that is why we're asking for the replacement in kind of a gas-powered vehicle.
And is hybrid a potential too? Just like if we're giving you directions, is it gas or hybrid, or is hybrid have its own problems?
I don't know the workings of hybrid. In speaking with Chief today, he did say that adjacent municipalities have actually been switching back to either gasoline or hybrid from their EVs. They have found that the use for exclusive police vehicles, that either hybrids or gasoline power works a little bit better. I'm not sure what our capacity is for hybrid, but again, the gasoline powered is what we'd be looking for at this time.
Okay, why don't I go around like I'm counting this one. Jim?
I mean, I guess my only question is why not think about hybrid too?
I think we could direct them. Well, let's go around. So your question on the table is hybrid or gas, if that doesn't make gas. Jim?
Right. Well, it makes sense to, based on the chief's recommendation, it makes sense to diversify the fleet, in the event of, to at least have one vehicle that operates on gas. If we were, well, it's it's their business, but, you know, if it were me, I would make that one not circulate so much, or keep it in reserve or something, or use it when we really need it. But yeah, it makes sense to I'm not happy to take the chief's recommendation on that.
Yeah, I appreciate Chief String's detailed explanation of why that was necessary. Makes sense to me too. And also, Officer Sapp was also explaining to me how it was a bit challenging after the storm to respond to all of the calls, just the one car.
Sure.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate Chief String's recommendation. I have no questions about that whatsoever. And yep, fully supportive of this.
Fred?
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with the purchase. I would advocate for a plug-in hybrid, which is a vehicle that generally runs on electric but has a gas tank, you know, in case the electric is unavailable. I probably will not vote for a full gasoline vehicle, but I think proceeding with the purchase and proceeding with, you know.
I'm going to look back to Jim.
Just, can I ask a related question, which is, there was a time, a previous flood, like 15 years ago, where all the police cars were pretty much destroyed in a flood. And now we've had another one happen, and it probably won't be the last one. I wonder if there's anything should we be keeping our police vehicles in a flood-prone area like that? And is there, you know, I know it's
I mean, you know the conversation.
Question. Sure, I do.
Yes, you
but,
do.
You know,
Shell Paternopolis raised it
at what point
10
do we
years ago.
consider, you know,
Yes.
keeping the police fleet in a higher area?
Yep.
It's not flood prone, and emergency vehicles in general.
So I think right now, they have.
This came up very unexpectedly.
I think we should stay on target with the police vehicle
Sure,
right
yeah.
now. I think that after Saturday, we certainly should have put a pin in that.
Mhm.
Because we don't want to be approving a police boat at some point. So let's put a pin in that important conversation. And can I say, we're voting now on authorizing the chief to purchase a police vehicle with the understanding that we would prefer a hybrid, but understand if it has to be gas. So that's what's on the table right now for a vote. All those in favor?
Well, I'm sorry, if it's necessary, right? I mean, if they can fix this vehicle, we're not buying it.
Absolutely.
Okay, just want to be clear.
Okay, all those in favor? Fred?
Just got
Yes,
hand up.
okay, 6-1, so close. Okay.
Before we move on, go.
Did you say 6-1? 6.
Yeah, I voted in favor of this, so it's 6-0. Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know we asked you to stay to speak with John Walker. We've got 3 more items. There's another time that you two can talk.
I was gonna say
Yes, you can email. Yeah,
It's probably easier to just send me a card and I'll send you an email.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. Sorry about that. I can't make you get stuck. I was like, he's still sitting here and we're going into an executive
I'm
session.
seeing how the wheels of government work.
Is it the,
It was the map on your website that shows the areas in all different colors. And then the legend for that uses different terms for each area than what the actual code statutory language is.
So you're saying the map on the website is different than the language that's in the zoning district?
So, for example, the little district on the south side of Narberth that I'm concerned about, which is the corner of South Narberth and Elmwood Avenue, is called general urban on the map. But in the code, it's called town limited.
Okay, well,
Sorry. And all the other ones have a different name than what's on the map.
okay,
great, check. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good eye
Thank
there,
you so
Dr.
much for
Stratton.
your help.
Thanks.
You know, I heard that, and I think that was it. They changed the language in the form-based code, but must have forgotten to relabel the map because they changed the names in the interior. So we do have to make those match. I mean, it doesn't have a functional. It's not functional, but
But
we'll get it fixed. Yeah.
clearly.
Thank you to the resident.
Okay, let's move on then to our discussion items because we still have our CIP presentation. So the first item in discussion under zoning is for fitness uses. And Maggie, thank you so much for that beautiful context of why we're talking about this now. We actually pulled this from the recodification cleanup because it wasn't exactly policy neutral, but really kind of the history and the context of this is prior to the pandemic, prior to a national shift in what retail looks like, the idea was that Haverford Ave should be the retail. You're coming in, you're coming out, you're buying something, you're eating something, etc. Those uses and that language didn't necessarily match because we have lots of examples with hot yoga, Pilates trainers, massages, DEA strength throughout the borough, but not on Haverford Ave. So what we're discussing right now is really kind of in light of the changing retail landscape, should we be revisiting this zoning in 5A and cleaning up that language for fitness uses? So that's kind of the background. I don't know if Mr. Walko or Ms. Dobbs, if you want to give some broader, more specific recommendations. We asked the Planning Commission to look at this. They did in the recommendation.
Are you talking about for this particular use or just in general?
Right, yeah, so I know there was a question earlier, unfortunately, our resident had loved to ask that, but in terms of kind of the timing of all of this, just to kind of explain where we are in this process. So yes, as was said, this was raised by the Planning Commission that was identified in the recodification process as something that was missing, lacking, needed to be addressed, but because it's not a policy neutral element, because this is essentially creating a new definition and applying certain performance standards to that definition, this would not be considered policy neutral within the context of the recodification. So this was reserved as a standalone. This was recommendations then brought by the Planning Commission that was discussed by Council, and Council has asked for some additional feedback. So our MCPC planner, Adam Schantz, has prepared this summary that summarizes what the Planning Commission had discussed in terms of their recommendations for how they would proceed with a zoning text amendment. This itself is not a zoning text amendment, so you have nothing before you this evening that you can actually move to adopt. But if the feedback tonight is unanimous in how you want to proceed with this, the next steps then would be to have our planning consultant draft the actual zoning text amendment. That would then go before the Planning Commission for their review and recommendation, and then it would come back to Council to review and then authorize for advertisement and then adopt it in the same manner, right? So we have those breaks in between the 30-day required review period. But this would be theoretically a standalone zoning text amendment, or it could be lumped into other more substantive zoning text amendments that you would like to. But for the purposes of the discussion tonight, we just wanted to get your feedback on what sort of changes you would be looking at adopting based on these recommendations in the memo for the fitness uses. So then based on your feedback, we can then draft an actual ordinance amendment that then you can read in its entirety and see how it would fit into the newly formatted recodified code. So whatever we would draft would of course fit into the new code structure that you just voted this evening to authorize advertisement for.
Okay, why don't I start with Fred again because he's on Zoom.
Yeah, so my only concern is that there suggestion that the first, where is it?
12.
First 12 feet, yeah, I'm trying to find it. Fitness studios may be permitted on the ground floor of buildings on Haverford Avenue, except for the first 12 feet of depth from the front of the building, which must be occupied by another use, so maybe a separate business, such as a store or small restaurant use. I find it weird to allow it, but like not allow it in front. I mean, I feel like if we're going to allow it, we should just allow it and not make a rule that your first 12 feet has to be something I don't know. Maggie had suggested that maybe like they would sell fitness gear or something in front, but it just feels like a strange requirement to me. Be interested what you all think.
Okay, why don't I go around? I started with Gene. Joe, I'll move to you.
I share the concern about the first 12 feet. I believe it is to provide a way so that the the businesses on North Narberth and Haverford have people walking in and out, shopping for things. And so, I think the goal is to keep that consistency. And I think I don't have, at this moment, strong feelings one way or the other, but it does, I hear the thought process of that consistency for having a way that people can walk in and out to shop, not just for the personal fitness. That's all.
I actually had the same concern with Fred and asked for that clarification that came through the other day, because it didn't make sense to me, quite frankly, that having the people going in and out the back, to me, is counterintuitive to creating more foot traffic on the front. Don't you want somebody who's going to go into the fitness studio, work out, come out, and maybe go over to get their drink afterwards, or one of the other stores? It doesn't make sense to me that, people could be going in or out either before or after their workout. Especially when we're trying so hard to make the downtown fill up, it just seems like an unnecessary requirement to require two separate, basically you're going to force the owner of whatever building that could go, or wherever it could go in that building, to have two tenants instead of one. It just doesn't seem like a compelling reason to create a barrier to entry when we're so, we hear over and over and over again, let's get those stores built. We want to create something that I think really just creates a minor benefit, 12 feet. I mean, what's going to go in there?
Great. So when we talked about this on FNA, which was just you and me, this did come up, and I know it's worded in a way that suggests that a different use or even a different business be up front, but we heard that the planning commission discussion may have centered more around like a screening.
But I got the clarification. They wrote back after we asked that, and they said no, they were intending a different.
All right, I'm sorry I missed that. When was that?
I got the email back from.
Emily sent an email yesterday that was.
Oh, to follow up on my request.
I'm sorry.
And it's still,
all right, I take all that back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, we all had the same thoughts in terms of whether that was appropriate for Haverford Avenue. I think I landed differently on that, just because I do think it creates more of a synergy with other businesses if we have more of a retail use in the front. Let's say, for example, it's a membership-only gym, and then you don't have people who are just going to stroll down Haverford Avenue and be able to go into that business. So even if it was like a membership-only fitness gym, and they sold some retail items, like Maggie mentioned, gym equipment, things like that, that makes sense to me. Or a cafe that could also serve the fitness users as well. So I think I would agree with the planning commission's recommendation there.
So I think we run the risk. Thank you. I think we run the risk of businesses saying, we're going to sell socks, and then we're going to start our gym 12 feet back. And we see that in stores that are not grandfathered for the retail requirement on Haverford Ave now, where it becomes a barrier that you're doing something to check a box, and in fact, then you're losing square foot of active space. So I see it as an unnecessary barrier too, only because I hear you, Jean, wholeheartedly. The idea is we wanted this vibrant retail, but the retail landscape has changed. I mean, our NBA will say it's a service economy, right? We want people to come in and do something and then get the markets, et cetera. So that's where I'm now seeing 1.5 folks comfortable with this recommendation.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just catching up on this. But yeah, I think I agree with Cindy that any getting a good active use into some of those empty storefronts will help the retail environment too. Even if it is a membership only place, I kind of, I would have to concede that that's still a positive.
Okay. Litmus test. I know where Gene stands.
Let me ask a question. What are we trying to accomplish tonight? Are we trying? I haven't discussed this before at all. I haven't really heard about this specifically until reading this document.
So
are we thinking of moving forward with the getting?
Yeah, so this
Okay.
was actually in the original recodification and cleanup, and then we pulled out the non-policy. So this was originally on that recod, and we thought, it's kind of policy neutral adjacent, so that's why that got pulled out. And we're doing, having that full conversation right now. So then we will give the directive to the planning commission, how we're going to start that zoning amendment.
I see.
This is not a final vote. This is just, we're asking them to give us an ordinance that we would then vote on. So this is a step before the actual vote, and that we don't have a formal ordinance to vote on yet. This would be to generate one.
But we essentially need to decide on the 12-foot recommendation tonight.
That seems to be the order. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Fred, I'm
No, we could ask them to leave it in, and then we could just take it out of the final version if we don't like it, right?
Well, if we have the consensus of Gene, how strongly do you feel about this? Let me take the litmus test. Mike and Jim, I hear you saying you would take the 12-foot out.
Yeah.
Fred, I hear you saying you would remove the 12-foot requirement.
Yes.
Jim.
Well, how long have we thought about this? Or are we just saying in the 10 minutes that I've thought about this? I think it doesn't make any sense.
Just by way of background, the way that the zoning code is set up right now for the 5A district, on habit for that, it originally and is currently in existence to require essentially a first floor retail store to be a restaurant, a store where you go and buy things, or a personal care business, which is different than a personal service business. And then if you wanted to have a professional office or a personal service business or any other kind of appropriate commercial use, it would have to be on the second floor. That whole intent was, as explained here, that they wanted the type of businesses where people were going in and shopping, going from one place to another, and not a lawyer's office that just take up split retail space. Right. And the idea was, I think, that these fitness uses were more akin to, a personal service or something that is not drawing people in to go shop, occupy space and go shopping. So, recommendation was to have that 12-foot, kind of keep let's have the retail space up front, but still kind of have the use somewhere else. I guess not second floor, but even on the first floor, further off the street frontage. So it's just I think a little caveat related to this particular use that's in line with the overall uses or way that that Hartford Avenue frontage has been treated ever since the pandemic.
Perfect, thank you.
So why don't, I hear you, Joe, feeling a little unsure. Would you feel more comfortable if we said, let's have the planning commission write it as drafted? And then to Fred's point, we're not voting on anything. We could change that language of the 12-foot after you have some time to think about it. And Michael Baldini's.
I would agree.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair. And to be fair to Joe, we talked about this at F&A, so we had a little bit of a head start.
Yeah, and we talked about it before you were on council. So okay, of course, in November.
Thanks.
Right, and again, so the direction then would go back to our planning consultant who would draft an actual zoning text amendment. Legally, the planning commission, our Narberth Planning Commission, still has to review the zoning text amendment. So the planning commission gets another crack at this too. So they'll look at it in the actual drafted language, the formatted language of the ordinance. They would then make recommendations. So if they liked it and wanted to recommend it, they would do so. If they wanted to recommend it with conditions or caveats, they would make those evident to you, and then it would come before you for consideration for adoption. And again, if you needed more time with it, we would discuss it. It could be amended, and then it goes through the cycle again.
Can I ask a question? Could we have the ordinance written with the 12-foot requirement and a waiver? Could a business just get a waiver?
It's in zoning, so no.
So no, it would have to be through. Okay.
It would ultimately, It would ultimately end up being some sort of weird caveat where it would be like the zoning officer's determination, and then you create subjectivity in the amendment.
Forget I asked. Okay, I was just
Can I
wondering.
ask one clarification point? Am I right that because of the way, one of the other things that this does is we don't have a definition specifically for this, so it's been treated as falling within this other umbrella. But if I'm right, because you can only have so many within the zoning code and whatever, we're really just talking, there's only one potential property it could land in. Like, we won't have multiple fitness studios, right? Because because there's some other maybe
350 feet.
but there's some standards here about there can't be another one within X.
This is version, yeah.
But would be for a personal service.
And it has to be the same use. Like it has to be like another yoga studio specifically, or another, so.
But
if you took this out of personal service and had its own definition, it would no longer be subject to that exclusion.
That limitation.
Unless you specifically added that for these particular uses.
No, well, one of their recommendations was the primary entryway to a portion of a building fronting Haverford or Narberth Avenue containing fitness studio shall be located at least 350 feet from the entry of any other portions.
So that's in line with what was adopted for the personal services.
So it's not like we would have I guess I don't have a sense of how.
It might be one on North Narberth and one on Haverford, right? Might be two.
Right, like most, right?
Yeah.
But to be clear, it wouldn't be able to have two yoga studios, but you could have a yoga studio, a Pilates studio, and a martial arts studio.
Right, okay.
I don't want to open a can of worms here, but if this is sort of where you're looking to go with this, you do have the personal services and also studios, which includes art classes and such, also confined to the second floor. And if you're looking to find additional first floors, you want them to see if there are personal services under the same that allows them again on the first floor to be set back or not set back at all.
What falls under the category of personal services again?
The personal service.
Personal service or personal care?
Personal care.
Personal care is already allowed. Personal service is uses some laboratory fabrication areas, repair areas, or processing areas are necessary. Uses include but are not limited to photography studios, copying services, tech repair shops, and other similar establishments. So it's the idea of having a photography studio, take your pictures. I remember it explained as you do not get an immediate service. You go in, you're going to have to come back later for something. Would be a personal service.
Cobblers.
Something like that, where they drop something off. There's an area for them to work on something, process something, and then you come back and pick up something later.
That's personal care.
No, that's personal service.
Personal service.
Yeah.
Personal care would be nail salon,
right.
hair salon, nail salon.
Yep.
And a studio is defined.
Fitness studio?
Well, this is just studio.
Yeah.
As an establishment in which fine art or crafts are manufactured and sold to customers, or fine arts training classes are held. So again, that would not be allowed on the first floor, would be allowed on the second floor. Again, I slow the conversation.
Why would we do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense to me to allow those as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, we want
really
arts
think
and crafts
about
and
that.
studios and vibrancy on the first floor. Yeah. So,
But again,
Fred?
the concept of why that was done was for the same reason, of the idea.
Sure.
Those aren't things that attract people to go from one place to another store to another store.
Okay, Jim, and then I'll go to
Remember when
Fred.
Sweet Mabel had their craft studio?
Yeah.
It was not technically in Narberth,
Not
but
Narberth.
boy, was that an asset. Wouldn't
Yes,
that
it
be
was.
Fantastic. I would, something like that. So I have no reservation.
I
about
totally
that.
agree. And Sky Soup, which is an arts and crafts studio, is on the second floor. Yeah, I agree. Fred, do you have anything to add to this? It sounds like we're moving to, I'm seeing the heads nod to say we should exclude that provision.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say we want to be careful about the the uses that include a tech repair shop, because we've been really strict about a tech repair shop in the past. So, yeah.
Studio.
But studios are appealing to me, of course.
Okay. Joe, are you comfortable with that and seeing you not? Okay.
And I think this is an opportunity to really look to see if we can open up what can go on the ground floor there.
Vibrancy. And again, I think a lot of that language is archaic and prior to really a shift in retail and service-oriented economy.
So should we direct planning commission to take a look at that? Because I mean, they could look at they could make a recommendation as well as to other uses to be allowed or not allowed.
The will of council and not is to explore that as well. Thanks, John, for bringing that up. Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like we want to have planning commission explore fitness uses as recommended in the memo, and also reconsider studio uses within the same context of fitness studios in terms of the areas where they would be permissible. Okay. We currently don't have any other business before planning commission in August, and they have expressed an interest in that meeting. This is also contingent on the ability of our planning consultant to be able to draft something ahead of time for the planning commission meeting. Does council wish to give any timeline requests of this process so that we can set up our meeting schedule accordingly and notify planning commission if they will need to meet in August?
I would hate if planning commission members said we're all away on vacation in August and can't meet. I'm personally not real comfortable with saying tough, figure it out. I mean, this is not an emergency. Does anybody else feel differently?
Well, I have another topic that I'd like to give to planning commission. So can we hold that off for a second until we have our next agenda item?
Okay,
I have a
Jim?
side thing too. So I just wanted to point out another part of this recommendation, part of these, letter here that hasn't come up yet, I don't think, about closing the station circle loophole. They're just recommending, it's under local recommendations. It says provisions related to Haverford Avenue should be clarified that they apply to buildings fronting Haverford Ave from the south between Station Circle and east and north Narberth Avenue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But just make sure,
Underscore that.
yeah.
Sure.
As long as everybody's comfortable with that as well.
Of course.
Yeah, it seems like an important part of this recommendation. But we didn't even talk about that in FNA.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you.
Okay.
And we didn't talk about the 5B, indoor recreation. So is that a change from what was there before?
Right, again, so that is a definition that does not currently exist.
Okay.
And we do have uses that would fit within that category in that district. So that would also then be fleshed out in the text amendment.
Okay, so we're going to put a pin in the schedule because Fred has something that he wants to add. Jim, I'm sorry, I see your hand. Do you have another?
Just got one last thing. I don't know if this is an appropriate to include equalizing the parking recommendations for restaurants and retail. We need, the current code calls for one parking space per 500 square feet of retail, and one for 400 square feet of small restaurant. And there has been discussion, not on council, but of equalizing those so that a business can, if one business is vacating, something that's coming in that may or may not be a restaurant doesn't have to consider an additional parking burden. And I think it makes sense to, I think that's a timely thing we might want to consider. Just saying.
You're saying it makes it harder to put a restaurant in.
The way we have it now makes it marginally harder to put food service place in.
So you're saying just the restaurant, not the retailer?
I'm saying equalize the parking
To what,
requirement
400 or
to 500.
Okay.
Make it easier.
To make it easier, yes. Because it's marginally harder at the moment. And there are certain cases, I can even bring up some examples, where a restaurant that wants to move into a spot finds that they have to supply just fractionally more parking space. And as we all know, no shop can supply any additional parking spots.
So that
on
results
for that.
in that
So
restaurant.
yes, right.
So I would say we should not create any barriers that will lead to the vibrancy of our downtown. And if you think that will lead some of that, Jim, I would support that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nods? Okay, so hearing nods, can we change that too? Put that on the radar to adjust to make retail and restaurant have them explore that? Yes. Yeah.
It's unrelated to fitness use, but if we're looking at substantive zoning changes and it's non.
Yeah, as I say, I didn't know if this was the right one or not, but it's, as long as we're talking about uses and barriers to uses.
And just for, again, kind of edification of how this process works, an ordinance amendment does not have to specifically refer to just one code section or one topic area. You can amend the zoning code in whatever sections you want to as part of one uniform amendment. So that is fine.
So we should do that later then.
Well, no. I'm saying if it's supportive of goals that you're looking to do and you're looking to do substantive zoning changes and it kind of fits in with this. And again, I think we're going to be discussing in our next discussion point some additional zoning text amendments that we might want to consider. So it's really at that point, however it's perceived and whatever timeline you're looking at drafting these things. So an equalizing change of the parking is a pretty nominal amendment to the code and can be drafted, I think, concurrent with the amendments to any sort of downtown uses or 5B uses related to fitness studios or indoor recreation or studios to that matter. But if you're looking for something that's more complicated, that requires more time to draft the zoning language, you might want to parse that out from the discussion of the rest of it. So it can be lumped together. There's really no reason not to.
Okay. I think we shouldn't overly complicate this.
Well,
It's easier to do.
Wait. He just threw a red flag.
one of the things I think is somewhat complicated in this proposed ordinance is the noise tables. And we don't have any other noise regulations in these tables in the zoning ordinance right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would just propose that those be moved to the nuisance chapter and supplement the nuisance chapter with just noise controls. And frankly, I'm not sure why I need to leave just these uses and why not all uses.
Yeah.
John, we do have noise in there for like industrial uses. There's a specific table. They probably reproduce the same table that's in there. I mean, I could find it in the packet maybe, but.
Yeah, maybe if it's in an appendix, but my thought would be these would be more prevalent. And if you're going to enforce those, you're not going to want to enforce those through a zoning violation of the zoning code. You're going to want to issue a citation outside of the zoning code. It would be easier, and the police could also then enforce them and not your zoning officer. Mm-hmm. So I think that they're better placed outside of the zoning code. It's not, and again, I haven't reviewed it for substantively, but I just think, again, move it somewhere else.
Yeah. All right.
So is the point of including it here to exclude certain fitness uses that might be too noisy? Like, I don't know what it might be, but
I think it was for. Yes, I think that is correct. Yep.
I understand that. You have a gym with loud music.
Yeah.
I understand why it was on the radar.
Thump,
Yeah,
just going into Jack or whatever it is.
Absolutely. But John, to your point, you bring up a really great point. I mean, that's not something we would have Kevin call. That's something you would want the police to be able to call and respond to in a moment.
I think John's right.
And I'm not sure why it matters if it's a gym or any other.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, nobody should be pumping music, right?
Yeah.
It could be the bar. It could be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that catch, John.
So we have table 500-408-1 sound pressure levels that's in the recodification that we just voted to advertise, which has octave bands, hertz, and timing, and
And I don't.
Page 155 of the packet.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against keeping those in zoning. I just think that you would want to have something outside of zoning consistently that you'd be able to use to enforce.
So it could be as easy as having something outside the zoning code that says it's a violation if you do anything that's violative of the zoning code. It's a separate
I think you could incorporate these standards, and if you ever want to make additional standards, and again, we do have noise standards, not codes, just something that we could cite.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Okay, everyone's not.
Yep.
Is Fritz still on there?
Yeah, like I think this is copying a table that we already have in our code. So I don't know what the point of it is. Confirm that we need this, given that there's already a table in our code that seems to be the same table. So we could just refer to that if we want to.
Oh gosh, Dana, I thought that you bagged out hours ago, and because I could not see your face until now, hence me not asking you for any opinions, because it's what, 2:00 in the morning?
It is, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Your face was not on our little squares, or I would have been asking you each time. I apologize for that.
No problem. I appreciate it. I'm here listening.
I'm looking at what Brad just said, and that's that is referenced for manufacturing, noise control for manufacturing, and it has that chart. And obviously, we have not had to deal with that because there's not much manufacturing going on in the borough. But if we're moving it to more popular activities, more retail activities, it likely will come up.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need to look at that to reorganize and shift, John. That was a good catch. So let's put a pin in this, though, because we're then going to move into discussion, which Fred, I can't see Fred anymore, but I'm assuming he's still there.
Dana came
Yeah,
on and
Dana
Fred went
came
out.
on and Fred left.
All right, I'm here. Can you see me now that I'm speaking? Did I pop up?
No, you and Dana are in some weird matrix. We have
How strange. Well, anyway, I will just speak, and I'll tell you when I'm done. I'll give you like an over and out.
Yeah, we can hear you. We now can't see you.
All right. So we're going to have, I would like to next month give Planning Commission their instructions for the zoning ordinance. However, there is one element that we've been talking about that Adam Shantz has not seen, that Planning Commission has not seen, which is the stacked townhouse typology. That is something that originated in council. That is something the Planning Commission has not discussed. And I think people are generally in favor. I mean, I think everybody on council has expressed support for that typology at one point or another. So I would like to suggest that we pass this along to Adam as well to start working on drafting this, just because it's going to take him a while to draft everything we're giving him, and this is a new thing. So if he can get this to Planning Commission a little earlier to discuss, that would be advantageous, since we know we all want this. And I think my sense is that people are generally in favor of this, and it's completely new. So my proposal is to ask Adam as well to draft a typology for a stacked townhouse and bring that to Planning Commission for initial comment. And the overall bill is still going to proceed on the same schedule, but this is just a staging issue. So does anyone have objections to giving that instruction? Or Maggie, do you have concerns based on what I said? I talked this over with you, but.
Yeah, we'll just need to speak with Adam about his work schedule to see what we can accomplish between now and Planning Commission. So if we do August Planning Commission meeting to discuss this, it's probably going to be conceptual and not actually drafted in a language, an ordinance language, but conceptually, I think it could be done.
Okay.
Okay, I'm seeing nods and no objections, given that it's 9:15 and we still have the CIP plan. Is everybody comfortable with that and explore that?
Yep.
I think we have to have a conversation with the Planning Commission. If they all have vacation schedule and they're not going to meet, I appreciate that we really want to keep this moving, but they'll do what they can. Right?
Yeah, we're not actually sure if there's going to be a forum. So what we'll do is we will coordinate with Adam and just get a sense of if this is feasible for August. Otherwise, that'll give Adam Shantz more time if we wait until September to have more things fleshed out, to have a more robust discussion in September. So, Fred, I understand, we had talked about the timing for that. So we'll try to, move this as quickly as we can, given people's schedules and work capacities.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
That's good. Okay, let's move on then, if there's not any further discussion, into our 2027 to 31 capital improvement plan. So I'm going to turn this over to Maggie.
All right. Okay, so I'm looking at the time, and this is all things that council has seen before. This is now the third year running that we've done this 5-year CIP. We met back in June in small groups with all of council. So we kind of went through some of the things that we're looking at doing over the next couple of years. So here is our capital plan. So as a brief recap, and for those who are online, as a bit of information for you, the capital improvement plan is a 5-year planning document that offers the following benefits. It provides us with an opportunity to take a look at what our future expenditures are, scope out some of these larger projects as we kind of budget for our financials, reducing emergency repairs and replacement. So we're looking proactively to fix what we have instead of waiting for it to break, giving us that prioritization and ensuring that we can kind of secure funding as we go. Some of the things that the capital plan does not include is our annual road paving program that is paid for out of our highway aid fund. We do receive liquid fuels funding from the state to help offset the cost of some of our road paving program. It does not cover the full cost of our paving program, so we do fund our highway aid through our general fund. We'll get more into that when we start talking about the budget and what our future paving projects look like. The Narberth Avenue Bridge is not part of the CIP. This is a federally funded project. There was a question about this earlier today and where we are with it. This project is underway. It is a 4-year project. It is scheduled to be done by the end of July in 2029. If you recall, we had a presentation back in September with our contractor. The bridge demolition itself wasn't scheduled to even start until about month 18 in the project, and we're about month 12. So we are still working on all of those utility disconnects. There is work progressing. It just doesn't really look like much has been progressing at this point, but it is. But that is a separate source of funding. Nothing in our capital plan is going towards the cost of the North Auburn Avenue Bridge reconstruction. We also have a separate fund account for our smaller sewer fund projects. So we do fund a lot of sewer projects on a rotating basis. You probably don't even know that it happens most of the time, but if you look at our expenditures, we're constantly doing repairs all throughout the borough on a rolling basis. Jeff and his crew are just like the magical gnomes where they go in, they scope camera things, fix them, and you wouldn't even know it because they're stealthy. But we fund that through a different fund account. And then similarly, our fire account is a separate fund. When we established our capital improvement plan back in 2024, we set our own parameters as to what counts as a capital expenditure. Our criteria for that is that it has to be a one-time cost of $5,000 or greater, and the item has to have an estimated lifespan of more than 2 years. This is an annual process. Like I said, we've been doing it for a couple of years now. This is an ongoing process throughout the year. This is not really a one-time thing. This is a living document. I'm constantly looking at it, tweaking it, updating it, monitoring the spending. Where do we have some additional dollars to spend? Where are we possibly going over? So it's kind of a work in progress. So we maintain it at the staff level throughout the year. We maintain that master inventory list. And then starting in about June is when we met with our small group committees. It went through staff committees first, and then our small group with council went through internal review, and here we are with our first draft. So you'll be seeing it this month, and then we'll be looking to adopt it by August. And again, this is a planning document, which will then inform our budget process as we head into September. And again, just to reiterate that, the capital plan comes first, where we get all of our funding requests from all of our partners, staffing departments. We take a look at our operating expenditures, and then we draft our annual budget. So that runs from, August, we adopt the capital plan. September, we start getting into the actual budget, and then we'll adopt by December this year. My goal is to adopt by November. All of the things in the master inventory are ranked based on this evaluation criteria matrix. So everything is ranked as a 1, 3, or 5. 5 being it elevates it to a higher priority, 1 being a lower priority. And then we just continuously monitor those prioritizations. We can boost things if they become something that are elevated in terms of need. But this is also what goes into helping us identify where our critical path is for more immediate needs and what are some things that are on the nice to have but not need to have, and those can go on later implementation phases. So taking a look at our current master inventory list, most recently updated as of 5 o'clock today, we have a total of 86 items on our master inventory list of items that are either not yet completed or not yet in progress. So we have a number of items that are already completed and a number of items in progress. So this is 86 total outstanding items that we have on our master inventory list. Of those that are in the 5-year CIP, of those that are in the 5-year CIP for just 2027, we have 15 items for 2027 alone. 6 of them are in the high ranking, 6 are in the medium high, 2 are medium, and then 1 is just a recurring. This is a little bit small to see, so I apologize. This is in the packet online. You can zoom in. So if you download the packet, you can zoom in on this online. And same with council, it's in your packet. So if you want to zoom in, but this is going to give you the 5-year timeline. So we have our actuals for 2026. And then our projected capital expenditures for 2027. So you'll see that we have some recurring line items, including our stormwater bump outs, which we discussed earlier. We also have a $60,000 fleet replacement reserve. This is something that's on top of the existing actual itemized vehicle replacement schedule. And I think that the incident involving the police vehicle over the weekend is indicative of why I'm proposing that we have this kind of recurring expenditure. We never know when we're going to have some costs to incur related to our vehicles. So while it's good to target the replacement of vehicles on the rotating schedule for replacement, I'm suggesting that we also have this recurring expenditure that we just kind of sock some money aside in our capital plan. It goes into our capital fund reserve. And it just gathers interest until we need to dip into it to purchase those vehicles. So eventually it'll become kind of funded, and then we'll just dip into that for our capital costs. But otherwise, you'll see a number of items that we've already approved and authorized, and some that we've actually completed. This like purpley blue color, our estimated costs, those are capital projects that we have actually budgeted for this year that are not yet purchased, and we don't have a final purchase price for those. Everything else is a final purchase price. And then looking ahead at 2027 and beyond is where you start to get into the actual meat of what we're looking to adopt. So in 2027, we're looking at doing our Elmwood Avenue pedestrian bridge. So anything that's highlighted in green are going to be grant funded projects or potential grant funded projects. We know that we already got $250,000 out of an estimated $450,000 project cost for that, which is fantastic. So I just budgeted for the balance that's remaining. We obviously still have the DCNR grant that's outstanding. We'll find out about that later this year. So we can update those numbers once we get to the budget, once we have that confirmation. But that will be to do the construction for the Elmwood Avenue Bridge. I want to just point out something as well. The portable radios that originally was on the CIP for purchase this year in 2026. Chief String has been working with the county, who have created a program for police departments across the county to have a no interest financing. So we're going to purchase the radios, and then we just have a 0 interest financing over the course of 5 years. So it's $44,000 for the 6 police radios that we need. We'll purchase them now, and then we'll just pay $9,000 every year for the next 5 years, which is what you see in the CIP here, is that $9,000 amortized, or the 44 amortized over 5 years.
I have a quick question about the Elmwood Avenue pedestrian bridge. Do we already have engineering plans for that, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we had to finalize our engineering plans to apply for the grant. Right. We are still working through our DEP permitting process. So there are updates being made to that engineering plan based on DEP's comments, but that is outside of the capital expenditure. So that's a good point. So the capital expenditure does not include the engineering costs for these projects. So all engineering costs incurred actually just come out of our general budget right now. The capital costs that you see in the CIP is just the construction costs. Yeah, okay.
And there's a chance that that could go down, right? Because we still have the second grant out there pending.
That's correct, right? So I have it highlighted in green, and when we get to the funding sources, you'll see that I just assumed that every grant we would get 50% of whatever that dollar amount was. Again, this is not a budget document. This is, but it is helpful to kind of have those nuances in mind. The skate park, same thing. These are costs that we have in here. We know that Lower Merion is interested in working with us and looking at funding. And we've talked about pursuing some joint grant funding for implementation. So these are our estimated costs that we have. We do hope that we will be able to work with the township on getting funding from both them and grant institutions to further reduce those costs. But we are looking at kicking that off by the end of this year. Working through the design and implementation over the next 2 years.
So is that an estimated cost without Lower Merion funding?
That would be with Lower Merion funding. Okay. We have, so again, a lot of these were on the CIP. So because it's a 5-year CIP, a lot of these are rollover. So we didn't really add a lot of new things this year. This was just kind of a carryover. So if you do a compare and contrast from last year, some of these were already on here, but we have the new truck for our public works director. This would be the take-home truck and work truck, so it function, multi-purpose function, which again, considering that Jeff has come in to work almost every single weekend to respond to emergencies, he's using his personal vehicle all the time for work-related things, so this is a really important thing for us to consider for him. We're looking at installing new drinking fountains, so they would be ADA compliant, and they would also have the bottle fill feature, so the upright bottle fill. So that would be for the Borough Hall and for the library. The gutter renovation, so this is the second half of the project that we're starting this year. So this year we're doing the vestibule, and next year we'll be doing the gutters all around the library building, just to help with the drainage for that building. And I mentioned to some of you, but as an add-on, I would be interested in seeing if the library board would be supportive of having some of those lights, like what the police department or the fire department put up, those LED programmable lights, make it look like Boathouse Row a little bit with some nice lighting. So anyway, just a potential. Again, we talked about this enclosed trailer with solar panels. So given that all of our lawn equipment is electric, and given that we actually just have to drive our lawnmower on the roads of the borough to get to our various park locations, for safety purposes, for storage, and for a mobile charging station for our electric lawn vehicles, Jeff has researched and come up with this idea of doing an enclosed trailer with solar panels. So it will hitch to one of our existing vehicles. We can safely convey our lawnmower and other lawn equipment to Elm Grove Park, up to Sabine, or wherever else in the borough we need to access for maintenance. So that's something new. We also have some landscaping equipment that's nearing the end of its life that needs to be replaced. And here again, so here's that Ford Explorer replacement, the 2022, which as I mentioned, this was already on the CIP, has been on the CIP since its creation. But this might get taken off the CIP if we end up needing to purchase the new vehicle this year. The traffic light controller replacement, this is for the light in town at North Narberth Avenue and Haverford Avenue. This is a must-do. This controls the function of that traffic light and needs to be replaced. We do actually own that traffic light. We've also been working on updating the air conditioning units at the library. So this year we did the Girl Scout room as part of the 2025 CIP. We wrapped that up this year. 2027, we need to do the AC unit for the central portion of the building, the library itself. And then in future years, you'll see if you kind of scroll down, we have is it on here? We have the AC unit and air handler, or the AC unit for the American Legion wing is in future future years. And then we also have, this is a newer one that we added this year, a replacement police department office entry door. We're having issues with the aluminum door gets really overheated in the courtyard area, and the door gets stuck and it doesn't close properly, and sticks to open. So that needs to be replaced. So those are the items. So we have a lot of items next year. A lot of them are smaller items though. If I can just kind of briefly point your attention to some of our future projects. We have our playgrounds. So this would be for the Narberth Avenue or Narberth Park playground. We have kind of as the next phase, so 28, 29. So we would be looking at doing grant funding in 2028 for implementation 2029. Council room AV upgrades. We've got a lot of cords running everywhere. It would be nice to kind of have an integrated AV tech system in the room. So I'm proposing that we put that in for 2028. Here's the AC unit and air handler for the East Wing. As I said, that's the American Legion room. So then that would, at that point, we would pretty much be done with the renovations to the library building. So we would have done the vestibule, the gutters, the AC, and the Girl Scout room is already done, and then the AC in the other two wings. So that would take care of the library building. And then we get into the doozies, which is the big stormwater improvement projects. So we have Windsor Avenue, Essex Avenue, Haverford Avenue, stormwater projects. So you can start to see we have fewer projects in our future years, in part because it's harder to plan out smaller projects this far back, but also because these are going to be very intense, very expensive projects. We will be doing extensive engineering for them. We'll be seeking as many grant funds as possible to implement them. And if nothing else, Saturday Storm has just, for me, doubly emphasized how critically important it is for us to improve our stormwater systems. So these projects would involve the excavation of the street and replacement of the storm sewer pipes. Jeff has left for the evening, but if I can remember, it's something absurdly undersized. Like our storm sewer pipes are 6-inch or 12-inch, and they need to be 18 inches. So part of the reason why we have such extensive flooding on Haverford Avenue is because our storm sewer pipes are just supremely undersized for the amount of water volume that they take on. So when we get heavy, intense storms, which we are seeing more and more of, those small pipes cannot handle that volume, and they just fill and overflow, leading to the flooding problems. So this is all connected. Windsor Avenue is the primary, like all stormwater in the borough leads to Windsor, which then goes into Essex, which then goes into Haverford. So we need to phase it in that order so that we get the benefit kind of upstream, downstream. Windsor being upstream, and then we come down Essex and then down to Haverford. We are doing some of this engineering now. So if you recall back in 2023, we received a multimodal transportation grant from the state. We have never executed that grant. And I have been working with the state for the past few months on amending the scope of the permitted grants to pivot away from some of the items that were initially included in that grant scope that are no longer applicable, which includes improvements that were proposed along the parking lot behind Haverford Avenue, which we now no longer own, including improvements on Elmwood Avenue and across North Narberth Avenue Bridge, which are all improvements that are being upgraded as part of the bridge project. So we don't need to spend our own time engineering things that are already being constructed. So what we're going to maintain as part of that multimodal transportation grant scope of work is engineering to connect South Essex Avenue to the mainline greenways, and taking a look at multimodal transportation all along Haverford Avenue, including stormwater management from North Narberth Avenue to Wynwood. And we did include the crossing of Wynwood to get to the trail at the Thomas Wynn Apartments. So we are doing a lot of that preliminary engineering now. We will need to do more engineering for Windsor Avenue and North Essex. But we are using grant funding to get some of that engineering done and paid for. So that'll be teed up so then we can start applying for grants for implementation. And we'll continue as well to continue seeking some funding to help us with the engineering costs associated with those designs for Wynwood and Essex. So I wanted just to kind of tee up, that is kind of where we're going with our capital plan. So we're getting a lot of the smaller stuff done now. It's more manageable. It's things that we desperately need. Some of these are bigger projects, some of these are smaller projects. But ultimately, what's going to happen is we're teeing ourselves up to be in really good shape to have the equipment that we need to maintain everything appropriately, to maintain our buildings, trying to get ahead of some of the maintenance needs of our buildings. And that way, that opens up our capacity to take on these massive infrastructure projects that will benefit the community for the next 100 years. So it's going to be a big lift. We're going to have to message this to the community just to let folks know that this is coming down the pipeline. And I know it's a lot because we've got the bridge under construction. We have uncertainty with what's going on with the buildings or the businesses on Haverford Avenue. We still have, questions about the future of Sabine. And then we have these big infrastructure projects as well. So it's a lot going on in a small area, but these are critical infrastructure projects that we need to do. So we are budgeting for those as we get to 2029, 2030, and 2031. So that's kind of the gist of where our capital planning is taking us for the next 5 years. I'm just going to pause here real fast to see if there's any questions on the scope.
Yeah, Maggie, I do have a concern, which is about the skate park. I think what you said is that the cost that you've got listed there is net of what Lower Merion might provide. I don't think that any of us anticipated spending that level of borough funds on the skate park.
Okay.
I think that we were expecting the Lower Merion's contribution would, cover the improvements to the skate park, and that Narberth would be providing the space, and that was how it was originally proposed to us. Obviously, if it's changed during discussions, that's one thing, but we have not really agreed to spending $500,000 of borough money on the skate park. So I want to flag that, because if that is where the negotiations are right now, that is not what council has agreed with the skate park. So we'll need to take a look at that carefully before we proceed there. So if I understood you correctly, that is the expected borough contribution. That's not what we had in mind originally.
Right, understood. And this is a very conservative estimate. The costs for this are unknown at this point. We don't actually have the costs nailed down, and we haven't entered into the MOU yet. So that is something that we're working on drafting with Lower Merion. So these were numbers, admittedly, that were drafted a year and a half ago. So these haven't been updated based on any sort of advanced discussions. I don't want to go into an MOU with them expecting that we're going to contribute $500,000 if that is not what council wants to do. So now that we're talking about an MOU, we should be very careful about what we're telling them that we'll do. No, that makes sense. I can certainly follow up with them on this and get some clarity on the cost expectations.
Hey, Fred, quick question. I want to make sure I understood your comment. Are you saying that the expectation was that those would be zero?
This was originally presented to us as Lower Merion would like to fund a skate park in Narberth. Now, obviously, the devil's in the details, and they are entitled to. That may have been misunderstood. They may change their opinion, but that was how it was presented to us originally. And that is what we said, sure, tell us more. So if the details have changed, we need to have a discussion about that.
Yeah, the reason I ask is that's how I remember the conversation earlier in the year, that it was zero. So I was surprised too to see the $500,000.
Yeah, it's obviously a very different story if we're negotiating with them and they are going to generously fund a skate park on our park to provide for the greater community, or if we are chipping in, a significant portion of our budget to do the skate park. So it changes the equation. And some community members brought this up, and I think it is worth noting that originally when council had discussed this, we felt the contribution was going to be zero or minimal. So we do need to understand what Lower Merion's expectations are here.
So when we had this discussion in the master park planning process, just to confirm, Lower Merion did talk about covering all of the construction costs for the skate park. But I think something we need to consider is if for whatever reason that doesn't work out, is Narberth going to do like a scaled down version of a skate plaza that would be smaller? And I don't know if we would or not if there's support council to do that. But that was part of the master park plan, with or without Lower Merion funding.
Yeah, and I will say, so these numbers came, like I said, these numbers haven't been updated in a year and a half because these came from the cost estimates in the master parks plan.
Right.
So they're in here because that's what the parks plan estimated them to be. But we don't have anything formal with Lower Merion. They did, yes, indicate that they would like to contribute to this, but I don't know that the cost is going to be zero, and this is a conservative cost. This is also, again, not a budget document, but a planning document, but definitely warrants some additional clarity on expected costs.
And it sounds like you'll have that in the coming weeks or months.
Yeah.
Before we're voting on any budget.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. So I'm thinking just because it is 2:42 a.m. for Dana and 9:42 for the rest of us, unless there's any major concerns or questions with the CIP.
Just one more real quick one, right? Sorry, Cindy, I appreciate you looking out for my time and everyone's time, but if that 250 is closer to zero, can we go ahead and just take it out and then put it towards Narberth Park that is kind of falling apart a little bit?
Right. So once we actually get to the budget process, then that's when we take a look at how we're going to be funding all of these things. So the phasing of kind of what we're focused on is where the CIP is going to focus those energies on. We do this and then we do this and then we do this. So it gives us our phasing plan. But any expenditures for things that are not spent on the thing that they were budgeted for, yes, then gets rolled into just the general capital budget. So for example, what we did this year is because we ended up not spending the money on the Grayling Avenue sewer repair, we didn't have to spend capital funds for it because we were able to pay for it through just the sewer fund. We were then able to pivot and purchase the sidewalk snow removal equipment, which actually wasn't on the CIP originally, but that was elevated in priority due to the lack of equipment that we needed to address the storms that we had. So now we have that equipment that is going to better prepare us. So we can pivot to purchase something that has come up in priority. It's nice that it gives us that flexibility, or that money just rolls into funding future projects. So yeah, it could be then funneled into, if it's not spent on the skate park, then that money just becomes available for other projects in our capital plan.
So you're saying there's a situation where we would pay 250. I thought I heard that, and what I remember from council's discussion is that would be rejected.
Right. Again, these numbers are coming from the parks plan, which didn't necessarily envision how it was going to be funded through a partnership with Lower Merion.
So I'm wondering if, Dana, I kind of hear what I think you're saying is, could it be redistributed? But let's say we earmark that 500K for the park, with the understanding that we're probably not approving 500K for the skate park. When we get those details, it'll still be earmarked for something in Narberth Park. TBD, because you do have in there a couple of years later, like the bathroom and playground equipment. So to your point, it's a planning. So we'll earmark those funds for the park, with the notion that this is not going to be the skate park, but you'll rebalance it to reflect the master park, right? So we're earmarking 500 plus K for Narberth Park. We understand that's not going to all be the skate park. We would not agree to that, but that is in our planning document.
Well, we also require like engineering work and stuff. Like we can't make major changes to the park without, a significant lead time, right? That's why these are years in advance that's why the playground is a couple of years out. It's because it's going to take time to focus on and take time to work with the community and make sure we have it right. So, I mean, we can't, even if we said, hey, we've got some extra money, we can't make wholesale changes to the park that year. But, we could look at the future and look at, major changes are like years out, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the park for 2028, which is just a year later, as we have the 200,000 on there. So there's ways for you to move the pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, because we're trying to seek grant funding for these, we have to phase them out. And because we have limited staff to do grant applications, so we're going to be applying for grant funding for both the skate park next year and the park, like the playground, if we can do both. In large part because Lower Merion has indicated that they would be assisting in grant writing for the skate park. So then that enables borough staff to focus on grant writing for the playground. But again, since most of the funding, we won't know if we've received it until later in the year, we can't then budget for it. So the idea being that we apply for grant funding in 2027 to spend it in 2028, which is why the park playground isn't scheduled on the CIP until 2028 and then through 2029. If we don't need to spend that much time doing it, because the other thing is that if we don't get the grant funding, then we need to make the decision if we're just going to spend the money then, regardless of whether or not we're getting the grant funding for the playground area, or if we want to push it back a year to wait for another round of grant funding applications to see if we can be more successful. In terms of the skate park, though, I hear your concerns. This is why this is a presentation first, and then we won't adopt it until next month. So I will continue working on this, and I can update it based on my continued discussions with Lower Merion to make sure that this is more right-sized with expectations.
I mean, I'm sorry just to beat on the point. It's what I'm saying numerically is that it looks, just some quick math in my head here, roughly 32 to 33% of the capital plan, or maybe 30. I can't do the math right now, but what I see in that column, a significant chunk is zero, but it's put in a line item, and that's just weird to me. That's all. And it was presented a little bit more authoritatively than I expected. That's all. Thanks.
I want to then, if there's not any other questions or comments for at this time, I just want to underscore my appreciation for you to do this, because the CIP and the budget and the planning is the least flashy and the most important aspects of our borough. Deferred maintenance costs us all more. It costs us a quality of life. So sitting down with this planning document and trying to map out, to your words, Maggie, the next 100 years to keep us safe and functioning is no small task. And I really appreciate your work in doing this. And the same with council. You know what? We would be beloved a lot more if we put all of the money not towards our sewers and infrastructure and made everything shiny and flashy. But we're doing the hard work to keep us running for the next 100 years. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and Maggie, I'll add that it's comforting to see like 1.5 million in stormwater improvement projects that we've been working on for years, because obviously, the borough can still use improvements in its stormwater. So it's good to see that these remain priorities for the borough, and that we are currently working on engineering these fixes so that future floods will not be as devastating as the one that just hit.
Thank you. Absolutely. And real fast before we come off, and so we don't have to go into too much detail, but the next few slides do get into some of the funding scenarios. Again, the CIP is a planning document, not a funding document. The budget is where the actual rubber hits the road. But I just wanted to point out, last year we talked about the potential of doing a $300,000 transfer every single year to help offset some of the costs of the capital projects. We do need to transfer money from the general fund into our capital fund to actually budget for these upcoming items. With the increase in EIT, we did tell the community that this is going towards these capital projects, and it is. One of the things that we have now that we didn't before is we're utilizing our Pliget account, which gets much higher interest rates than our regular bank. So what we can do, and what I did this year, is I took the full $500,000 contribution that we allocated in our budget and just plopped it right into our capital fund reserve. So it's at 3.73% interest right now. It was better a couple of months ago, but it's earning a much higher interest rate. So we're looking at getting, hopefully, given the timing, we're probably going to get another $10,000 worth of interest this year. But we're not going to be spending down our full capital fund account or capital reserve accounts. So if we look at our funding opportunities moving forward, we have either no transfers, single transfer, annual transfer, and then our annual transfer plus grant opportunities. The funding scenario with annual transfers plus grant opportunities is the only way that we can stay in the black in funding all of these big infrastructure projects through 2031. This does envision a $500,000 contribution into the capital fund every single year. So if we can start funding that and even potentially increasing that $500,000 to more, that just goes into our capital fund reserve account. It earns interest. We draw down on it as we need to fund the expenses for that year. But that really helps us tee ourselves up to capitalize on that interest, get our money to earn more for us, and just better helps us be in a position to pivot to funding some of these other items. And if something else comes up, and then we can spend more of the money on the fun stuff that our residents want to see. Even though the stormwater infrastructure is obviously very important, everyone also wants to see some improvements at the parks, which I 100% support as well. So we want to try to do as much as we can. Of course, small budget, small staff, limited capacity. So we do what we can.
We're going to manage our expectations.
Little engines that can.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, folks, are we okay given the time with any? Okay. Let's move on then. Information items, monthly reports have been submitted and are in the packet. Unless there's any questions, comments, or concerns, I'll move to committee reports. Finance and administration.
Yeah, okay, so we've been talking about we've been talking about facility rental policy. We're not through that yet. There'll probably be some decision points, I think, coming up soon where we'll bring that to council. I think is our intent. Get some direction. Anyone who has not viewed the workshop meeting, that was essentially an FNA meeting, for more information from the presentation from Aaron Graves, you should do that. It's really informative, regardless of your opinion. I think everyone feels smarter for having watched. What else? I'm looking through my agenda, and we just remembered.
Yeah, I mean, you did the recommendations for the appointments that we made today.
Correct. Yeah, I'm right. I'm working on more appointments too, to fill some of the vacancies we have.
Okay, great. Infrastructure.
There's nothing we ought to report that didn't come before you today.
Okay.
So
Thank
there's
you.
nothing new. Bridges, just to address that person's point, the bridge is progressing. So it is in fact happening.
Yep, and it's on the webpage and the flash.
Yeah. All I can do is say, there's a million ways for you to keep up to date on that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jean.
So Public Health and Safety Committee did not meet this month. There's a lot of things cooking in the background with the vegetation maintenance program, active transportation plan completed, and the Montgomery Avenue corridor. We're expecting a public meeting in September for that.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot one thing. Since Carol Marie mentioned the trees, we are taking down. We in fact do have a tree. We do try and keep back of the trees that are on Borough property as part of the rebuilding of the playing fields. We identified that there are some trees there that create a danger that are going to need to come down. I'm sure the community's going to be, some people are going to be upset when they see those trees down, but to Carol Marie's point, we actually, this is a perfect example of where we are cognizant of the
It was in the
danger of
flash
Borough
Friday.
property, and
Yeah.
we're taking it down.
Friday explained that trees were coming down after an assessment, and then Saturday happened.
So we have 4 white pines that we identified as being hazardous, and we are planning on taking them down next week. The storm took care of one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh my God.
Unfortunately for the person whose car was parked there.
Oh, no, that was not that. No, that was not that tree. No, so we were taking down the 4 white pines behind the bleachers.
Right.
The American Legion has indicated that they would like to talk to us about doing like a full renovation of the War Memorial there, which may include then some additional tree removal and restoration of the patio area. So we're working with them, and we'll issue more information as that comes about. But yes, we actually have an updated image.
It'll be in the newsletter tomorrow. I'm on social media tomorrow.
Yeah, so we have an updated image that shows the 3 remaining white pines that will still need to come down that the storm did not.
I couldn't believe you mailed it out, the tree assessment, and the next day. And, quick shout out to the folks who put the Get Well Soon balloons on the pickup truck that caught the War Memorial tree. That could have been my new business.
And the for sale sign.
And the for sale or sign. Thank you very much. Okay, any new business for the good of council? Any old business? Comments? Thank you. It's late. Movement to adjourn. There will be no executive sessions.
So.
Okay, second?
Second.
We're all in favor? Okay, good morning, Dana. Good night, everybody else.